Welcome back, everyone, to Lesser Known Operators. This week, we're sitting down with Kevin Edgerton, the owner of 18 Alpha Fitness out of San Antonio, Texas. He was an 18 Echo before he became an 18 Alpha, which is an officer and or team leader of a Special Forces Detachment Alpha. Spent 26 years in the military, seen it all, done it all. Kevin, thank you for coming on the show and welcome to Lesser Known Operators.
Appreciate you inviting me in, Nick. Look forward to talking to you and get some knowledge from you. See, you're a first group guy, but
I,
1-1 was the best battalion. Just saying, if you've never been there.
I did some clerical work for a week, I believe. So after I got hurt in 2015, about 60 days after I got to my team, I got hurt, and that was it for me. So I went to the B team, and then there's a big gap in time of my memories from when I got hurt until pretty much when we went to Korea is when I started getting my shit back. And that was like 8 months. So I lost that part of my career. It just kind of skips like a record. But I did go to Japan when we were in Korea. Everybody out there really thought highly of themselves, and everybody that all had went, nothing but good things, except for being deployed 35 out of 36 months of your tour. Got pretty rough, I heard.
Bro. It was ridiculous. I got on the island, and within 48 hours, my family's still in a hotel, and I'm out the door, like popping. Like it was nothing. It was the most insane time. And then I was a team leader at the height of the war. It was crazy. I did 4 back-to-back J sets. Did the Philippines for 7 months. Rolled out. I was supposed to go to Afghanistan, but I broke my neck on a jump in Sydney, Australia. But it was my wife says for the whole 3.5 years, I was only on island for like 10 weeks.
Yeah. Your stuff lived there. You didn't, though.
Yeah, I did not. Yeah, my family have a they had a great time in Okinawa.
It's a beautiful place, and plus you've got it's a short flight to everywhere in Asia from there. I mean, the longest
That's
flight to get to. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good. So get some dollar pad thai pretty quickly. Um, so one guy. You were also in 10th group for a bit when you were there, and what were you doing over there?
I was a chemical officer for 3rd Battalion, 10th Special Forces Group during OIF 3. Uh, General, I think 3-star General Dorsey Rogers was my battalion commander. Like rock star team, something I never like the commander, the XO, and the 3, and the sergeant major were all really good dudes. I was blown away. I was actually going to go back to 10th group, but when I was at the captain's career course at Benning, the branch manager came and was like, "Hey, I see you used to be in first group as an Echo. I can get you to Okinawa once you
Mm.
get done." And we had to call the boss, ask her. It's like, "Hey, you want to go to Okinawa and give it a try?" And so I took that bait, and it was a good time, man. Okinawa was fun.
Hey, and you kept your family together. That's a
This is
rare
my
occurrence.
second marriage, but she's 24 years now. We met like May 20th, 2001 on her 21st birthday when I was going through the Q course the first time as an Echo.
Oh. And didn't had no idea what was coming for you in September, huh?
No, we had no idea. And that I was going to be a cool guy, man. I was in Bosnia and saw the SF guys doing their stuff. And man, got put on break and came out. CQ desk had a TV behind there, and that's when we saw the second plane hit. And I just remember looking across and was like, "Fuck, this shit just got fucking real, real
I was
quick."
talking to Colonel Sullivan yesterday, 5th group, 3rd group guy, and they were using language when the 9/11 happened, and he
Yeah,
said
so where I was at too.
they just didn't nobody had a handle on anything that was going on.
It was crazy. I mean, we locked down the whole base. Base used to be open,
Oh yeah.
and then it closed everything. We had sites that we had to secure for like the first 3 days until we got the fence all the way around Bragg. It was, man. And we thought, you know what I mean? They gave us a briefing. We thought we were going up to New York to help. Uh, but yeah, we didn't. But within 60 days, there was guys gone. You know what I mean? It was gone.
Yeah, everybody had a different response. Because I interviewed somebody else, and they were in a regular army unit, and they said it was way stupider. They're putting concertina wire around the battalion or
Right.
brigade
But
headquarters
yes, yes,
and
yes.
just guarding, street signs and shit. Like, oh fuck, we got to stand it ready. Well, for what?
For what? Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I could only imagine. I was at Fort Hood uh, for 6 years prior to me going to becoming Echo, and I was in first calf. God,
how was how was
oh my
that?
God, it was the worst. It was the worst place that you could ever amount. I did NTC 6 times every year. I went to NTC every year. Was a train up to go to NTC. You had like squad sticks, platoon sticks, company sticks, brigade sticks, and then the big dance at NTC like clockwork every year. And then we went to Bosnia one year. Uh, you know what I mean? And that was just like a reprieve. And the instant you got back, you're put right back into the cycle to go to NTC.
What
I
was
could,
your
I
MOS
was a
when you
12 Bravo. I
were?
was a combat engineer.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, at least you're combat. So yeah, oof, but that's rough down in Texas. 6 years of second cav there.
First calf.
First
God.
cav. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh, man. Yes. Horrible. Yes. That's what I mean. Uh, Prior to that, though, I was in during Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and I had a break in service. I was going to school. And then when I came back, I had a couple goals. I wanted to go SF, wanted to become an officer. Don't ask me why. I have no idea. And to go become a PA. So I knocked two out of the three things out. The PA I did get accepted, but just not at Baylor. I got
Hmm.
when I was retiring, I got accepted to a couple places, but at the time it just wasn't right with the family. With the big transition, I wasn't going to go back to school for 2 to 3 years, so I never did that.
So why did you want to go SF? I mean, obviously, first cab is enough of a reason to want to get the fuck out of there. But what was the allure at the time?
I just wanted to try something harder, different. You know what I mean? I just heard the mystique of you got to go through this suck fest of 21 days. Then when you get selected, it doesn't end there. You got to go to airborne school, which I always wanted to jump out of a perfectly good airplane. Which God, I broke my ankle and my neck, so it hurts to even think about it. But I just wanted more. I just wanted to push myself. I started wrestling when I was 8 years old. You know what I mean? So I got that grind. I got that grind mentality. My dad was in the Marine Corps. He joined when he was 16 and got out when he was 20, and basically 8 months before Vietnam kicked off. So I just knew that service. I just wanted to serve, and like I said, I just got tired of the same like a 12 Bravo. All we did was we were like a blocking force to put minefields up for the big tanks, you know what I mean, in the tank battles. And then I'm riding around in the APC 113, and we'd have got 50 cal goes through that. We had a big war. I was toast. Did not want to be in that doggone coffin driving around putting up minefields and stuff. So yeah, I just wanted to see what I can do, push myself. I was fortunate enough to make it first attempt at selection. I trained up horribly for it with the wrong ruck. My feet, I walked on sidewalks, right? I didn't train on trails. I didn't train on sand because at Camp McCall, there is no sidewalks and there is
No,
no,
it's perfectly manicured pathways with
yes,
mulch, and
right. With
there's
well,
handrails every so
yeah, yeah,
often.
yeah, yeah. And then the rocks that, you know what I mean? When you got to go, we had it when the $1 million shooter was there, and you had to walk on those rocks and from them it used to be the Kwanzaa huts. I know it's all changed since I
Oh,
went
it's
30 years ago. You remember I went back though, and they were building all the new stuff, with with all the brick stuff. Before it was all Kwanzaa hut. They were all metal sheds and stuff. It was pretty cool. And then see the transition when I came back as an alpha to see how much it has improved with, the fence all the way around the compound. I even as a 18 alpha, I went out to Camp McCall just to go like talk to a buddy, but I wasn't like on the schedule, and I couldn't even get in to
no.
Camp McCall to talk to anybody because I wasn't on the schedule. I wasn't on a pass. And I was like, okay, I got what? It's crazy out there. You know what I mean? How they
If you
got to
don't
find
need to
out.
be here, get the fuck out of here.
Right.
Um, Oh yeah, so yeah, the Quonset huts or the metal, were they the tin sheds or whatever that
Yep.
you stayed in?
Yep.
So I was in the half domes, which I think that was awful enough. And now they're in buildings,
Right.
which isn't. I don't know. I don't consider selection, and I don't think anybody that lived in those half dome tents that we went in considers that selection either, because that was an added level of this fucking sucks when you're in those tents and it's all sandy and the heat doesn't work or the air conditioning doesn't work, and you're trying to pull fire guard and figure out where your shit's at and people are
Yeah,
quitting and it's just miserable.
15-minute fire guard, and you got 4 hours of sleep per night. Yeah,
Oh
fun
yeah, well,
time.
I remember we couldn't, because people wanted to volunteer for first or last, right?
Right.
And
Oh
that
yeah.
got quashed right away. So we just
Uh-huh.
would do a horseshoe around the room. So
Right.
we'd basically just sit up for 15 minutes and then you're just staring at your watch and then you just smack the shit out of the person next to you if they haven't quit, or you got to find the next one and then
Yep.
keep going around the room. That fucking blows. And then the cadre would go out there and draw dicks on the whiteboard in the middle of the night and wake everybody up.
Right. Yeah, it was a good time, right?
Knowing what you know now, because you're in a regular unit, you don't understand what special forces is really. You just kind of have this image in your head of what you think it's going to be. Well, you had said it's got to be better than this, right? And that's what I did. I got to my unit and went, no, this isn't anything like I thought it was going to be. I got to get the fuck out of here.
And where
There's
were
got
you?
to
What
be
were
something
what were you
more.
before, Nick?
I was field artillery and I was at, okay, yeah, and I was at Fort Sill.
Oh, oh,
And so basic AIT and then stationed at Fort Sill.
station to stay at Seal. Oh my
Yep.
God. Oh, I'm
And
so
I
sorry.
thought I was going to get out of there because I thought I'd get some preferential treatment for finishing the top of my class. No, they didn't. Nothing. End of the alphabet. They put me right at the bottom. So they took the bus over to my unit, went to S1, kind of went, oh, these folks look. What's with you guys? And they're all on profile. I didn't,
Yeah,
and
right.
the unit's in the field. They said, okay, get your stuff. You're going out to the field. So I got my stuff the next day, went out to the field, and Sergeant Major walks out there and gives the most awkward brief to the two new guys wearing his out of regs white Oakleys, and he's fat. And I go, I think I made a huge mistake. I got to get the fuck out of here. And we got out of the field, and I went right to the library and signed my sheet to go to selection.
Wow.
I knew I was going selection within 2 weeks of being at my unit, and I went 90 days later.
Wow. That's amazing. And you got to go
Yeah,
90 days later. That's impressive.
I should have. It worked out because I went and my feet weren't ready. They
Yeah.
weren't army ready. Um, and my knee locked up probably on the second day of land nav. I couldn't bend it anymore, so I got pulled. I came back. All I did was ruck and train legs and back. That's pretty much all I did, and went right back and breezed through. But that's my philosophy. There was no training programs like you
No.
have going on.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Uh,
I didn't. You got to remember. I went. When did you go? What year did you go?
11.
I went. This is nine. I went the first time in '95 and got selected in '96. So
Okay.
there used to be this little pamphlet that was like this big that they had that just like said to do this and that, like just a couple, ruck like 10 miles a week. And it wasn't nothing. I mean, there was nothing, no physical, anything else really in it, but rucking. Right. And then
Yeah.
after the first time I had a Gucci backpack, a ruck that I used. Like, I mean, this was a top of the line backpack that you can put 80 pounds in it and it still felt like it was only like 15 pounds, right? And then being in first cav, I trained up and was walking on sidewalks, got my mileage in, and thought, hey, I'm good to go, man. And then you get out to Camp McCall and they give you what I call the Pinto rucksack, right? And that thing with that metal frame, oh my gosh. And it was just pulling back. And then uh, walking on that sand, and I got what I call baby feet. My wife makes jokes about my feet because they're soft. Some people just have really hard feet. And mine are like soft. I lose toenails playing tennis every once in a while. But you didn't know, I didn't know how to take care of my feet back then either. So just, you learned on the go. You know what I mean? Like moleskins, and they had the big rolls of moleskin at the med station. I would go cut a big old piece every morning and get, had scissors so I could make donuts. But the first time, every metatarsal on both feet was a grade 4 stress fracture. And Doc, you know what I mean? He pulled me in. He's like, you can keep going, and I was like, yeah, I can keep going, man. I want to, you know what I mean? I want to do this. And he's like, yeah, but if I was like, well, what would you do if you were in my situation? He's like, I just come back in a year, because if you keep on going, you're going to be broke for a year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's like, you can crush it, or you can come back in a year. And I was like, I'll just come back in a year. And I trained up every time I went rucking because at Hood, there's no trails, but tank trails. So, when I was rucking, I would just walk on the grass. Everywhere I went, I was on the grass. I did not walk on sidewalks. Sergeant majors used to yell at me all the time through their window at brigade headquarters because I'm walking on the grass at Hood.
Yeah. Well, fuck them.
Right?
Yeah, they're just jealous that they didn't even go to, or they didn't go to selection, or they didn't get selected, and then they
Right.
hate
Oh yeah.
the people that
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
trying to.
But you asked what did I get what, you know what I mean? I think there was more of a brotherhood in special forces, and people wanted more and could, perform more, could do more. Uh, yeah, I think it was the greatest decision I ever made in my military career by going. Yeah, I'm hurt. Do I hurt? Do I ache? Yeah, I do. But if you continue to move, you're not going to hurt and ache as much if you just sit around and drink all the time, or smoke weed, or smoke crack, or do fentanyl, all that other bullshit that you can do to take your mind off of it. Good on you. But fitness, in my opinion, is where it's at, man. All you got to do is just move, and you don't have to. Again, I'm 55, going to be 56 this year. I don't move like I did when I was an operator. I can't run sub 6 minute mile anymore for four to. Well, I ran a 6:30 10 mile before. You know what I mean? But I can't do that no more. If you can still do that, good on you. But I tell you what, I know how to get guys built up from nothing to get selected, though.
What percentage is mental? Because I have thought about this a lot, right? The guys that are going to pass are going to pass no matter what. Like like their leg could fall off, they're still going to pass. I just like, and I think about every phase of the course. If you separate them out, they were they were what they were, right? But I look at them and go, I don't know how, but I just showed up, I rose to the occasion, and then when I was done with it, I went, that really sucked. And I don't know how I got through it, but I just did it because that was the task to finish. How much should be placed on the mental over the physical? Or what do you think is the premier one there?
The premier is the mental. If you don't have your why, is what I say. If you don't know what your own personal why is, why you're doing that, why you're putting your body through that, you're always going to doubt yourself. So the mental part, I think, is like probably 90, if not higher percentage of it than the physical. Because the physical, you can do all the tasks. Anybody, I think, that's in the military should be able to do all the tasks. Just mentally, can you do it?
Yeah, yeah. Unless it comes to dive school, then
Unless it comes to
uh,
dive school, because holding your
yeah,
breath sucks. I did the pre-dive at first group in January after when I first got there. Got to Lewis, and we were supposed to go to the PI. I mean, the first or second rotation of the PI had just kicked off. I'm ready to go. We're going, but for some reason the agreement didn't get signed, and so it got pushed one week. It got pushed another week, and like the third week, they're like, "Yeah, we're not going for a while." And they're like, "Well, pre-dive starts on Monday. You want to go?" I was like, "I'm a new guy. Yeah, I'll go try that." Never bobbed, never traveled, never done anything until that Monday. So that was a fun time. And then doing the open water swims at American Lake, and then in the Puget Sound in the
oh yeah,
afternoon. Oh yeah,
yeah.
those are so fun. So I
Fuck
lasted about 10
that.
days, and that was it.
No, I went to a dive team. I don't know if Sergeant Major asked me, can I swim? I just was down at the at their
You
on
got
the
put on a dive
left.
team right away.
I got put on a dive team, and I have never been good in the water. Don't like the water. Don't Not very good at swimming. Can't float. I've never
Oh,
been able to float. I can full breath as deep as and I can even expand like deep breaths, like working to take more and more air in, and I
right.
can stand flat footed on the bottom of the pool. No ability to float at all. And so I go down to the dive team, and I remember we did do pool PT once, and I was just hanging on the gunnel, going, maybe it's best if I just get kicked off the team right now, because I feel like I'm gonna die. This is the
Yeah.
worst thing I've ever done. And I just graduated the Q course. I thought I was badass. I was not badass. I was a fucking loser at that point.
Yes. But the funny thing, it's not the funny thing is, so then when I became a strength coach and I got here to Lackland, and man, Indoc, back in the day for the PJs,
Mm-hmm.
it's 11 weeks of doing pre-dive, basically. These
Wow.
guys, I'm astounded about, you know what I mean, how long it was. And then they can go to the Air Force dive school, pass. Well, some of them would fail, but all of them ones I went to CDQC down in Key West passed with flying colors. And it's like,
Yeah.
no shit, they got 11 weeks of pre-dive as opposed to just 3 weeks that we get before going. But they knew every task in and out. They would do buddy breathing, and just to watch these kids, you know, just do 50 meters underwater with no problem is just good on you.
I You'll like this one. Uh, I 3 months ago I got the 50 meter for the first time, but nobody saw it. I was in the pool. It was just a lifeguard, and she wasn't watching, which I was
What?
kind of mad about. I'm like, you're supposed to be watching me. I'm afraid of the water over here. So she wasn't watching. So I was okay. So yesterday I did 25 meters, so half and back, and then I went. Kept increasing it by one arm's length, and I got to about 40 meters. I was like, all right, let's just do it, and we'll see if we can get back there. I nailed it yesterday, and I looked over at the lifeguard, and he's pointing at me, and I'm pointing at him. I'm like, finally, somebody saw it, but I didn't have my phone to record it. But I'll get it now. Now I've gotten it for the second time, which I could never do, up until now I could never do it. So, uh, because you once you make the turn, you're like, I want to be done, and then you got to force those three.
Yeah,
And
three
then
more strokes. Yeah.
I was like, that's three. I've only got about 10 meters. Yep. All right, we're done. Fuck, cool. That, that's a mind fuck of an exercise right there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was fortunate enough. I went down to the Panama City where the Air Force Dive School was at when I was a strength coach, and watched those guys, perform in the open water swim and stuff. But yeah, just if you are on a dive team or have anything to do with the water, good on you. It's a humbling, most humbling experience that you could ever do.
Oh yeah, there's no air in there. There's no air down there. There's very little. If I'll stay on dry land, and I can breathe
I'm,
just
I'm,
fine.
I'm a dry land guy.
So we go through selection as a enlisted guy. So you're a sergeant at the time.
I was as when I went to selection. Yes, I was a sergeant.
Well, so what was so you went through and you got knocked out your first time through?
First time through selection, I got knocked out. Went to airborne school. You know what I mean. 6 months later, you got your airborne orders because I was in
Yeah.
first cav. I didn't have my wings. Went to airborne school at Fort Benning, Georgia. Uh, Fourth jump, snap, break, crackle pop my left ankle, and I'm integrity was one of those things at the time that I was really big into just because something happened when I was in college that you know what I mean. It was one of those life lessons. Is like, I'm gonna tell the truth. Well, snap, crackle, pop the ankle on the fourth jump. It's a night jump. I was at the hospital all night. Got my cast, come back, and they just did their fifth jump on that Friday morning, and I hobble up with my crutches, and they call my name, and I get my packet, and it's got my orders, completion of airborne school, and my graduation certificate inside. that fancy folder that you get. It's like, hey, I didn't do this fifth jump. They don't, those black cats have no idea. They're just passing out the things, right? And
Oh yeah.
he was like, go see operations, right? And so I hobbled up to the operations guy. I was like, hey, yeah, I didn't do this fourth jump. And he's like, oh, you didn't? He just take a black marker right across it, takes the certificate of airborne completion, rips it. And I was like, well, what the fuck am I supposed to do now? And he's like, go to Bragg. They'll figure it out. So I go to Bragg, I sign in. This is at this time the medical. I was going to be a Delta at the time, and that new build they were built back then in the '96. It was brand new. The new med barracks and all that stuff. That whole compound over there where the Deltas train. It was all brand new, and I'd been in there for 72 hours in my room. I'd driven up, got a knock on the door, and it's a Green Beret. And at that time when you're not a Green Beret, it's just like
Oh yeah.
perfector. He's like, hey, you need to go see this lady at S1. And so again, I hobble, it's a civilian, I hobbled off to her. And she's like, hey, I got some bad news and I got worser news. I was like, what? Bad news and worser news? She's like, well, what do you want to hear first? I was like, well, let's just go with the worser news. And she's like, oh, the worser news is you got to go back to Fort Hood. I was like, what? She's like, yeah, you can't from one school to another school, you have to pass the previous school to start the next school. And if you don't pass the first school, you got to go back to your originating unit. And I was like, no, fucking wait. Because at
Come on,
that time,
Sergeant. You should know better.
I told the guys at Hood, like, I'm out. You know what I mean? I'm out. Bow, bow, you know. And then I was like, well, what's the worst news? She's like, oh, you just can't start now. I was like, well, no shit. I got a broken, you know what I mean? My foot's in a cast. And I had to go back to Fort Hood, man. And 3.5 years later, after I had 2 surgeries on my ankle, uh, I got to start the Q course in 2000.
That's
A little bit
everybody
of
has a
perseverance. It's a
everybody's
little
got a
perseverance.
different pathway,
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
get there. That lady comes up all the time in the late 80s, 90s, early 2000s. The one lady that handled all the orders, that did
Oh,
everything.
really?
She
So you've heard stories about this lady?
Yeah, because you graduate selection and then you got to go see the lady, and then everybody says the sentence. So she comes up a lot. She must be in the Special Forces Hall of Fame because
She's
she's
gotta be.
introduced more people to the regiment than anybody else, I think. So I'm actually keen to find out who this person is. I'm
Who this
sure
lady, what her
somebody
real name
knows,
is, besides the
or
lady.
yeah, yeah, or it's unknown. It's just one of those figures like the lady at Chow Hall. Somebody posted the other day on one of the posts or pages that this lady that used to say what Chavin at the Chow Hall on McCall
Yeah, yeah,
has
yeah.
retired now, and
Oh,
people are up in arms about it because I mean there's got to be 50, 60,000 people who know who she is, and now people are upset like we need to have a memorial or we need to have a retirement party for this person.
wow,
So
because she retired.
it happens,
Uh-huh.
but it's just that one person when you always walked in the Chow Hall was saying the same thing over and over for years and
For years.
years.
You never
But
forget it.
never, no, one of those, yeah, never. A lot of the points in the course you never forget. Like
Oh, right. Oh,
for me, it was selection. I poured everything into that second time back to selection. I left no doubt of what was because I knew what was going to happen
right, right.
going
Yeah,
in.
yeah, yeah.
Right, I
You're
already
right,
knew
right,
the layout,
right.
and Sergeant Major made a stupid comment to me before I left about being done with all this special forces business. And I said, I am never coming back into this office ever again when I
Yeah.
walked out of there. And I just full dumped everything into it. I was going to die or I was going to come back selected. And I did. What was your mentality going back through it?
There's no fucking chance that this was not. I would have. Doc. I wouldn't have took Doc's advice. I'd have broke both my feet. Would have been fucking. They'd had to saw them both off before I recycled or not come back selected. There's not a doubt in my mind that I was going to get selected. Uh, it sucked. It still sucked because I'm that first event for Team Week, man. We did the ammo crate carry, and I remember it was 10 Ks of the ammo crate carry of fucking good God Almighty. I didn't feel my thumbs for like 2 years because we had the gloves. Yeah, and I would just like let that rope slide in and just kind of like barely hold on to the damn thing because your hand was gone after like the first mile.
Ugh.
That was the worst event for me. The Sandman that you put on the shoulders,
Oh, down pilot.
down pilot, whatever. Which one was like? Everybody's like that was their worst. I was like, I could military press that thing up, and people were, you know what I mean. I would press it up so people can get in and out on my side, and the guy on the
Down
other side
pilot
was
was
fucking
just
pissed.
was painful for me. It was just a constant horrible pain the whole time, but at least it didn't fluctuate. It was just the same. Whereas a lot of the
Okay,
other vids, you would get extreme pain and then a reprieve and then extreme pain, where down pilot was just bad the whole time.
yeah.
Um, I think the most demoralizing one, I don't even know if we're allowed to talk about this. I don't give a shit. Um,
But I,
was they had that 55-gallon drum in the back of the Jeep, and the cadre made us park it like half a mile from the creek, and then made us fill it up with wire handled buckets. And you could only if the bucket lost more
so
than
that's
this much water, you
you got to
couldn't use
do
the bucket.
right.
Oh, we were there all fucking day. Oh my
Yeah,
god, it
I didn't
was.
do that one. I've heard horror stories about that one. We didn't do that one. We had the sandbag ones that if they can put their hand over the top of it and there was any cloth on it, it didn't count. And we had to
No.
transport so many over. They had like these 5 hills that you had to go up and down that were little. Yeah, they weren't big hills, but you had to carry it from one side to the other. That was, and we had one guy. That was his job to make sure that if you put your fist on it, there was no cloth before you tied it up.
Man, I got done with that shit, and went back and watched 2 Weeks in Hell, and I went, oh, I'm glad I don't have to do that shit ever again. Fuck
Ever.
that. That looks like it sucks. And I had just got done doing it. Like, ooh,
Yeah.
fuck, ooh, give me the heebie-jeebies. Um, so when you went through, so you got selected and still got hurt, so you had to go back to Hood.
Mm-hmm. For 3.5 more years.
Oh, what is that got to be like?
The most demoralizing, fucking hate my life time. Uh, yeah, but you know what I mean? I had a goal. I was like, well, so they had to put a plate with 8 screws on my ankle.
Hmm.
And then, you know what I mean? If it's fine. And then I go see the orthopedic. I'm like, I'm just going to start the process that paperback up. They're like, you can't submit your packet. I was like, what do you mean? They're like, the metal's got to come out of your ankle.
Oh,
Well, motherfucker, I'd have never got the shit put in if I knew it had to get taken out. So I had to go, get that surgery. And then at the time I was getting promoted. Well, I went to the E6 board. And once I passed the E6 board, I became number one E6 in the battalion because I already had college. So, all those points, I was just like, bing. And they're like,
yeah.
now you got to go to BNOC at Fort Leonard Wood. Just take me out. We're going to Fort Leonard Wood again because that's a horrible place. And I had to train up just to pass. I mean, I just had that surgery to take the plate out, and I think 35 days later I was going to BNOC, and you have to pass that initial PT test, 2 miles. I think it was like 15:30 at the time. If you didn't get to 15:30, you were going right back home. And we had a couple guys in our battalion that had went to BNOC, and they, when you're a no-go the first time at the PT test at BNOC and you come back, boy, you might as well just disappear, right? So I went and, there was no way I was going to leave that question. And I went and I did BNOC. We did have one guy that didn't pass that initial test, and he had to go back to Fort Hood. But I passed it, and God, I tried, you know what I mean? But after BNOC, we went to Bosnia for seven months, and I wasn't supposed to go. I was supposed to be the rear detachment NCOIC because my battalion commander was cool. But while he's over there, he called me, and he's like, "Hey, I need you to come to Bosnia. I need you to be the battalion commander's NCOI's convoy commander. I need you to run missions." And I'm like, okay, So I went over there, and and I'm when I get back, I'm like within as fast as I can when we get back, I'm going to the Q course. So while I'm over there, I was waking up at 4 in the morning, putting in miles on Stairmasters or treadmills, anything that I could just to get ready to go back to the Q course. And then we came back from Bosnia, like, and then, it was like 2000 and I shipped off to become an Echo. And then coming from a mechanized, heavy mechanized unit going into small unit tactics, I'm an E6. I'm a senior E6 at this time as
Yeah.
well. I think I've been an E6 for 3 or 4 years. So, you're the PL, and it's those small unit tactics. And then this is my first look ever at small unit tactics is at the Q course. So I had to recycle that. Had to
At
recycle
least you
that as
didn't.
an echo.
At least you didn't get sucked into your unit though, because
Oh
getting
man.
back there and just getting sucked back in, because once you're a platoon sergeant, it's hard to get away from that life
Right,
and
right. Oh,
go.
it's yes, yes, yes. Oh, when I was leaving, my battalion sergeant major, and he was Ranger qualified. He's like, "You're not gonna fucking make it." He's like, "I
Oh,
don't even know why
thanks.
you're attempting to do it." I'm like, "Oh, well, thanks, bro."
Yeah.
And it's like, really, I'm not gonna make it just because you tried it and didn't make it. Then that's the case. He tried it and didn't make it. Uh, but I did get to see him later on. He became uh, he was the combat engineer sergeant major. So he was at Fort Leonard Wood, under a 2-star sergeant major, as the sergeant major of all of combat engineers when I was going as a chemical officer. And when I seen this photo on the damn thing, I was like, "Ooh, I'm going to see that guy one day." And went and knocked on his door. Sergeant Major Pearson was his name. And I walked in and I made sure I did the left shoulder turn that he can see that, to see the long tab, and was like, "I made it." "Oh, I knew you were going to make it. I was just trying to push you even harder." I'm like, "Fuck you. No, you weren't. You wish I didn't make it."
Oh, my first sergeant told me when I left, he's like, "Well, don't quit." Oh, thanks. And then he walked away. That's all he said. Nothing positive or negative. He said, just don't fucking quit. That's all he
Well, that's
said.
good. But that's better than what I got.
Yeah. I mean, that's great advice, though. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. Just
Because
don't
if
quit. That's
just,
the biggest advice. You know what I mean? Don't quit. I
I
got a
was,
story about the quitting thing is like, you know what I mean? There's blood, sweat, and tears, right? It only lasts for so long. You can only bleed for so long. You're going to cry for so long. So, and you're going to only, your it's going to stop. But quitting, that lasts a lifetime. Me quitting at like pre-dive, shit, there's no coming back from that. There's nothing you can do about it.
yeah,
But you're gonna
I
always
had
always remember
uh,
that.
who was on here? He's a battalion commander, and he sent one of his captains, or maybe it was a AOB commander. He sent one of his captains to dive school, and that's all he told them. He's like, "Don't quit," and it got back to him immediately that one of his captains had quit at dive school, and he had that motherfucker fired and like out of battalion faster before he even got back. All of his shit was packed up and out of the company area before he even got back. He's like, "I told you, motherfucker, don't quit.
Right.
That's it.
No.
That was the only thing. You cannot pass. Just don't quit."
Right.
And so, well, fuck you then. But yeah, that is it, right? Yeah, guys will quit or they'll intentionally fail. I was amazed when I got to selection at how many people failed the PT test right off the bat.
Really?
Just, oh, it was both of my classes, 20% failed the first day. We're out,
Oh, oh,
20%.
uh-huh.
And I couldn't believe it. And well, I had 450 dudes my second time through, and 90 guys got called out of formation. And I was like, what a bunch of fucking, what kind of stories are they telling today of how they didn't get selected?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. The PT test was never my issue, except when what I mean. After I broke my ankle, that was the only time. Running. After a broken ankle doesn't feel good, but it's fine now. But gosh, I would. What story would you tell your kids? I couldn't do the required push-ups, required sit-ups, or that run. When I went through, we had that 50-meter swim with full, uniform and boots. That you couldn't swim 50 down and back in a uniform.
We had that too, but it wasn't a go or a no go, and I don't think the cadre knew why they were testing us on it because we just went to the pool. Everybody had to swim down and back. Some people couldn't do it, but they didn't get dropped.
Oh, really? No, ours, you got dropped back in our day. You
Oh,
got, like, that was it. You're done. come back
I think
down.
the cadre just wanted to wash us off or some shit like that. I don't know.
Because we did the PT test back at Bragg on them
Oh no,
buses,
we were
you know.
all, everything out of McCall, man. It
Oh,
was
it's all everything. So
yeah,
we got back in this, you know, we got bussed into the dome, you know what I mean, with the one PT field
yeah.
where the snipers happened back in the day. Yeah, we got that's where we took our PT test, and then we got bussed back to Camp McCall.
Whatever. Probably never do it again, right? Fuck it.
No, never do it again. Mm-mm.
And luckily, you didn't have to do it again when you became an officer.
Oh my
So
God, yes. Oh, so that was one of the things that when I went through as an Echo, there was alphas that were prior enlisted that had to do small unit tactics again, even though
yeah.
they'd already passed small unit tactics. But when I went through as an alpha, since I'd already been through the Q course, I didn't have to do selection, nor did I have to do small unit tactics either.
Did you have to do SEER again?
No, no SEER either. No SEER.
So you didn't even. You were in the first easy class then. It sounds like
Yeah, yeah. First easy
not
class.
the
Yeah, yeah.
last hard class, the first easy class.
First easy class for becoming alpha because I was
Yeah.
prior long tab. But the alpha course was not it 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 is not easy to do seven full mission profiles. Uh, you know, and you know what that is.
Oh yeah,
Good.
yeah.
No man, MDMP to your heart content, right? So yeah, that's it's not easy. And then we did like 2 to 3 hours short of becoming a level two, and we won't talk about that.
Yeah.
Uh, and You know what I mean? And it's like, well, why didn't we just do the last two? Why couldn't we just do the last 2 hours and get that, you know what I mean, off of our stuff? And I just don't know why it didn't happen. Uh, but yeah, we had to do
They
that.
may do it now. Who knows?
Yeah, but we did that, and that was we went out to damn, I forgot that one training area that's out there. It's not McCall, but it's behind there. And we just like rented a house and did the whole thing out of there and would go up into Charlotte and stuff and do all of our things that you do, which was really cool. First time doing it, you know what I'm saying? And we got taught it and then we did it. Uh, you know, that's pretty neat. And then I got on my team that I was on, that was our mission set for Charlie Company.
Do
So
you know Jamie Tilka? He was first group guy, a warrant officer, but he was saying, and he kind of paused for a second. He goes, all the sneaky poopy stuff, and so that's the
yeah.
phrase for the show now. Is that side
That's,
of things is the
okay. The
sneaky
sneaky,
poopy things.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The sneaky poopy things. Yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
I thought that was quite funny. But yeah, that's the side. You either go more towards the kicking the doors inside or the intelligence side, and
Right,
kind of
right.
career gets pushed those two directions.
So funny thing is, when I was at the finishing up the Alpha course, I got a call from Charlie Company's XO at the time, which was a cap team. You know what I mean? He was a team leader, and his team was up, and he was the XO, and he called, and he's like, "Hey, we want you to stay there, and we want you to go to Sephardic right now because you're going to come to Charlie Company." And I was like, well, my family was living in Colorado, right? I had went to the captain's career course at Benning for 6 months. They didn't come. They stayed in Colorado. And then, I'm basically at Bragg because I had to do tie again because there's no way I could test out at the 1+1+. So I was there about a year. And I was like, yeah, if I wanted to do that mission set, I would have went and tried out for the big boys. They didn't take that too well. So, you know what I mean? I was like, that's not what I want to do. I want to do more UW stuff. And he's like, okay, you're not coming to Charlie Company, then just come on. And then I got another call saying, hey, you got to go to Ranger School. And I was like, what? I need to talk to I need to talk to the battalion commander. And he's like, why? I was like, because I don't need to go to 63 days worth of suck. I know what suck feels like. This is my second time completing the Q course. And he's like, what? I was like, yeah, I'm prior enlisted fucking long tab SF guy. He's like, oh, yeah, you don't need to go to Ranger School. Come on. You know what I mean? I was like, golly, you guys wanted me to stay here longer. My wife's going to kill me.
I don't want to do that. Yeah. So no, yeah, there's a lot of things that you can handle earlier in your career, and then the more years you get, you go, there's no reason for me to do that.
I was 40. I finished up as an alpha 39 years old. I didn't need to do Ranger School. I'll tell you that. And then after what, Robin Sage, like, I did a mission that they never even, because the missions are usually set and it's usually ran the same way because it's funneled to do that
Yeah,
for safety precautions, right? I don't know
yeah,
if you know that. You know what I mean? Most of those mission sets they're pretty much funneled to where there's not much wiggle room in that mission. And while I had one of those, I was in charge of one of the big ones right off the jump, and my recon element went out and came back, and there's a hole in the fence. I was like, where? And I went and reconned it myself, saw the hole. I was like, boom, frago, blue. You know what I mean? And when we hit the objective, we hit they from behind. They didn't even know we were there. You know, and it was so like the cadre come after the mission came up with, you guys cut the fence in the hole. You know what I mean? Did you cut a fence in the fucking hole? Because they had it. You could only access it one way to hit this objective, and that's the way that everybody you had to hit it that way. But since I hit them from behind, you know, the mission would still win, but it was just a surprise for them, and so I didn't need small unit tactics over and over again at Ranger School to learn how to do fragos or small unit tactics anymore. I was a pretty good T after that second time of doing small unit tactics at during the Q course the first time.
that was my least favorite portion of the course was SUT. I just hated it, but I don't know how because I thought, and this popped in my head the other day when it came time at the end to get your go no go that you passed or you didn't get recycled. I sat down with the cadre and he starts flipping through and saying all the good shit I did. And he's like, did really good, man. And I'm like staring at him. I'm like, when? Like, I don't remember any of this. Like, fuck, I thought I did terrible.
Yeah.
But I knew I had gotten my go because I knew where we were on a map on a fucked up. The team leader and the A team leader and the PL, they both got fired, and I got my go on one mission, and I didn't do anything for the rest of SUT. I like so he's saying all this great shit I did. I'm like, fuck, man, I thought I did horrible, but I just didn't want to be there, and it's like, well, this sucks. I'm a big complainer, though. I'm a big
Oh,
complainer. I love complaining, and it gets me through. Uh, and then I had a few buddies. They were also big complainers, so we were like this team of a small team
complainers.
of complainers, and that got us through. We would just complain harder and harder. I know that's not a great tactic, so anybody of your students are listening, don't go that route. You have to feed on negativity for that to
Yeah.
work for you. Most
Right,
people
right.
can't do that.
No, no, that usually fucks them up really bad, and they just go down that rabbit hole of the negativity, and it doesn't do. You don't do too well after that.
No, then you end up quitting, and as you said, quitting's for life.
Yes.
Um, so what was better, graduating as an Echo or graduating as an Alpha, as an officer?
Uh, so the first graduate, you know what I mean, to do that the first time was like, I this accomplishing something meaningful in life that's uh, is great, and had the family there. Uh, and then once you did it, the second time it's, I'm an 18 Echo now. Now it's like when I become a team leader, I just don't want nobody on my team to die. You know what I'm saying? So that's that's the goalpost you move it to, is like, you don't want nobody to die while you're a team leader on your team.
Well, fuck no, you don't want that to happen anytime.
Right. You
So how
don't want it to
long?
happen, but I mean, it's just, as an officer, it's like, I got this short window to be here on this team, and God forbid if something happens to somebody while I'm in charge.
What team were you on when you were an Echo?
So I was in 9-6 at the time, so third battalion.
Okay. Oh, you're on 9-6. I was 9-5. Yeah, I was 195. So I was right across, same hallway, just one door over.
One door over, and I don't even, have they changed any of that stuff, Louis?
So they were moving when I was getting out in 18. They were moving. I think they were going to move buildings over to the other side. So they were building a new building, but so I don't think they're where they were now. So we were in the same hallway, but uh, um, So what was team life as an Echo like? So you're a communications guy, you get your beret, you think you're on top of the world, and you're a senior E6 at this time, right? And now you're
Yes.
back to private.
So yes, and that's where like the why I transitioned to an alpha. I didn't stay on the teams long. When I got to Lewis, and that like the first year around, I was at SIGDET because that's where all Echoes back when my day had to go to. They had to go to SIGDET for a year, and then I didn't make the E7 board, and I was like an E6 for like I think it's 6 years at the time. And I went and talked to the sergeant major, had a meeting with him, and he's like, "Yeah, well, you just reset your fucking button, buddy. You're nothing. Like you're not Ranger qualified, you're not jump master, you're not scuba qualified." He's like, "You're at the bottom of the toll." And at that time, that like the next board for E7 was going to be in 18 months instead of a year. And then when you do the timeline, your number sequences might be 18 months as well. So you're talking you might make it in 18 months, but then you're going to have another 18 months before you make E7. We're talking another 3 years, and I didn't want to be an E6 for 9 years. And again, like I said, I went to college, and I was like, well, what else? You know what I mean? I've seen the other officers in life, even what I mean, even the 18 Alpha ones, and I was like, eh, fuck it, let's see what if I can go to OCS. And at the time, I read up on it. You only needed 90 credit hours at the time. You didn't even need to have your degree yet. And I submitted a packet, uh, kind of backdoored some stuff to get that accomplished because at the time the battalion commander said yes, but then I went on a JSET to Nepal, and the company commander, what became my company commander, said no. Uh, and so when I got back, the letter of recommendations the battalion commander said he was going to do before I left, he didn't do because the company commander says you need to spend more time on team before we let you go to OCS. And so I said, well, fuck you.
Did they know that the goal for going to OCS was to come back as a Green Beret officer? Because some guys will just go to OCS
Oh
and they'll
yeah,
go to the regular army.
right. No, mine was to come back. There was no fucking way in hell was I going regular army. Like there's no, you know what I mean? There was no way. You got to go away for 3 years. But
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to become a chemical officer, and I got to go to the 10th Special Forces group. But if I had to do 3 years in the regular army, I was coming back regardless, whether I was going to be in a regular army unit or in the special forces. I was going to become an 18 Alpha.
So you're very emphatic in your voice, right? Because you knew with your experience in the regular army what it's like. For those listening at home, what's the difference between a regular army officer and an SF officer? That lifestyle like?
That is god awful. That is like, oh man, no, I couldn't even think. You know what I mean? The officer in the regular army, man, that lieutenant, the platoon sergeant talks to him like like he's dog shit. He gets treated like dog shit from his company commander, battalion commander. You're just a nobody. Granted, that wouldn't have happened to me if I went to a regular army unit because if you got that tab on, they're like whoa. And even when I was in 10th group, I wore my green beret. You know what I mean? And people would be like, "What the fuck?" You know what I mean? With the butter bar on there, they'd be like, "What?" Like, yeah, motherfucker, that's a long tab green beret. Coming through here. So
That's a big flex too, right? Because
Oh,
you're wearing the
huge,
beret.
like huge flex. Like when I showed up, this is when I showed up at OC, not OBC, Officer Candidate School, become a
Yeah.
chemical officer. I showed up at Fort Leonard. I had to go back to Fort Leonard Wood. God, leave that place. Uh, and I show up, and that's when it went to the Black Beret. Big
Yeah.
Army went to the Black Beret, and the NCYC's up on the thing. He's like, "This, I got my PC hat on because I am not putting on that Black Beret." And he's like, "Who in here doesn't have a Black Beret?" And I'm the only person that raised up. He's like, "Why don't you have your Black Beret?" I was like, "Because I got this green one that I'm authorized to wear." And he's like, uh, he's like, "We need to talk." And so he had, you know what I mean? We had to, he's like,
You got to get the regulation out and look.
well, I'm like, "I'm authorized to wear it. I earned this thing, right?" And he's like, "I know you know what I mean?" He was real emphatic. He was, you know, he asked me, he's like, "Please, I need you to purchase a black beret. You know what I mean? He begged me to buy a black beret just so I wouldn't stand out in formation. And I did, you know what I mean? Just it was a good, you know what I mean? He wasn't a jackass or anything like that.
If
He
he
but
would have been a jackass, you would have
oh,
worn that beret the whole
I would have
time.
worn the beret the whole time, but
Yeah.
I didn't. So you know what I mean? But there's no way I would have ever. But I was supposed to go to, you know what I mean? Once I think it was second ID at Carson. So I was supposed to go to second ID at Fort Carson, right? Like, you know, you get your orders when you finish OCS, OBC, and I had orders for second ID at Fort Carson. And so what I did is when I got there, I knew 10th group was there. I mean, I had already called them and they're like, we can't do nothing for you. But once you get there in front of people, you know what I mean? I went straight to group headquarters, was like, I got this long tab here. I'm a chemical officer, brand new lieutenant. You know, can you, do you need a chemical officer? And the major, it was a rare detachment. Colonel Repass was no, it was Repass or Tovo. No, it was Tovo. He was the group commander at the time. And the whole group was in Iraq, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, let me make a call. Let me see. He's like, call me back in 48 hours. And I called him back in 48 hours. And, you know, the major, and he's like, who are you again? I was like, I'm the second lieutenant, man. You know what I mean? He's like, man, I haven't heard nothing. And I called back. He's like, call me back in 48 hours. And you got like, I'm on 10 days of permissive TDY to find the house. You know what I mean? But once I sign in, you're locked into the second. I've been locked in the second ID. Well, long story short, on the ninth night, I called and I was like, hey, man, I got to sign in tomorrow morning. Any update? And he's like, man, I'm so sorry, man. He's like, I haven't heard nothing. He's like, man, just keep your head low. You know what I mean? Come back. You know, I was like, oh, I'm coming. I'm going to be an 18 Alpha. And he's like, okay, just go do it. You know what I mean? It's going to suck, but you got this. Right. And that morning, I'm sitting there and I had just signed in and I'm like, you know what I mean? I'm pissed. And then the phone's ringing, and my wife, you know, we had just had a little, you know, I think that was our second kid that was just born. You know, I was like, hey, excuse me, ma'am. You know, it's my boss. She's way more important than you are. And I stepped out the room and I talked to her, and she's like, hey, some major just called and said that you need to call him ASAP. And I said, what? You know what I mean? And called the major. And he's like, hey, man, I got a by name request orders right here in my hand for you. You need to come pick them up. And I walk into the lady at the S1, this other, you know, this is
Just
at Carson.
white out your name out of the
No, I
book.
was like, hey, I just got told I got a, you know, by name request memorandum from 10th group. She's like, you got to go get it. And I came back. She's like, I already signed you in the second ID. They got to release you. So I had to go to second ID to ask if they would release me to go to 10th group. And, you know, again, I walk up. This is a brigade commander that I got to ask, a full brigade commander. So I go up to the S1, and of course the S1 captain, what the fuck, comes around the corner, and I did like one of those. All you got to do is just turn to the side so they can see that this isn't your normal everyday second lieutenant, right? And he did. Oh, what are you here for, lieutenant? You know what I mean? I was like, hey, I need to talk to the brigade commander about what? I was like, that's going to be between me and him, you know? And I was like, and he was like, really? And I was like, yeah, I need to talk to brigade commander. I need a by name press release to go from here to 10th group. And I got in there that morning. They made me sit about an hour and a half, but I was chilled out. I had both my boys with me. They were running around making a ruckus. And I go in there and I talk to the brigade commander. He's like, man, with your experience, man, you'd be a great asset. You know, we're about to go down range right now to Iraq. And I was like, yeah. And but we're at 140% strength on officers. And I'm thinking in my head, I was like, oh, damn.
Oh
You know, and
no!
then
Oh no!
he's like, but I'm gonna leave it up to you. What, you know what I mean? He's like, if you want to stay out, you know, if you want to go, that's fine. And I did oh, let me think about this.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm bummed. You look pretty happy. No.
I would love to be a part of this, but I know I'm going to become an 18 Alpha when, you know what I mean, once I become a captain. So I think I'll just go over to 10th group. And so got over to 10th group 2 weeks later in Iraq, RPC, Royal Palace Complex, and 3rd Battalion 10th Special Forces Group. and did a rotation.
How
Fucking,
was that?
oh, they were like I told you, that from the group commander to the battalion commander to the three to the. I've never seen like usually there's one person that's like a jackass or an off, you know what I mean? But the whole command was like amazing, um, fucking amazing. Like never before. Dream team. Like Pettit became the group commander at first group. He came to the graduation bar, and I became an alpha. He was the group, so he got. Oh no, he was third battalion commander. He wasn't group commander. He was our second battalion. I can't remember. But he was there for when you don berets and stuff. And
Yeah.
this motherfucker was a jacked ass light colonel that worked out like a crackhead, like you know what I mean, like I did, and he knew me, so it's pretty cool. But like I said, that whole team was amazing, and like I said, I was gonna go back to 10th group uh, if that branch manager didn't, wave that you can go to Okinawa. Because I had a house in Colorado, I love Colorado. It's a beautiful place. It doesn't rain as much as it does in Tacoma.
Yeah, it is interesting there. Being up by Seattle, it's beautiful for 4 months, and then it's just wet and gray for 8 months of the year. And you go, why the fuck am I here? But you can still go hiking for those eight
Yeah,
months
yeah,
all
but you're gonna be
year.
wet. You're gonna be wet as shit.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I liked it there, and now I'm in Wisconsin, which I don't know. With the cheese here is great, but whatever. So, what team did you take when you
With
got to be a
Okie,
team leader?
1112.
Oh, one. Okay. And what was your guys' mission or specialty?
Recon for Charlie.
What'd you think of
Recce
that?
unit.
So you were,
Huh?
you got some small unit tactics there. Come on.
The Recce unit for Charlie Company
How was
at the
that?
time. It was great. I mean, we got to do what I wanted to do. My team. We had a great team sergeant, okay, of course. You know what I mean. We got back from the Philippines, and I took over the team. I was when I first got there, I was the XO right off the bat into Alpha Company for 7 months when we went to the Philippines. Um, this was after Chris and Jack had just passed when they got blown up. We were the next company to go into to Holo. As a matter of fact, when Chris and Jack passed, the plane that brought them back to Lewis stopped in Okinawa, and so we changed them out and put them into the plane so they can come back. Uh, and I was like, "Fuck," you know what I mean? People are dying in the Philippines. You wouldn't have think it, but they did. And we did one. Did you go to the PI by any chance?
I did not.
Okay,
No, but
but so
Chris and Jack's picture up in the hallway from every day when I was there. So yeah, I do know who you're talking about.
So it's by with and through over there. It's not like you're not going on the op, right? But
Yeah.
you're going to help plan, coordinate everything for the op. And we knew exactly who had did it. And so right when we first got there, within like 30 days, we did an op to go take those guys out, dry hole, and then lo and behold, the Marines, the Filipino Marines are like, hey, we're gonna rinse and repeat this thing again. And it was like 30 days later. I'm like, let's I mean, literally it was like the same thing, like the same mission. It's like they didn't do any MDMP, like, hey, let's try to see if we can do something different. And I just like one small recommendation. I was like, well, why don't we, I know you guys got these boats that you guys can utilize instead of driving straight down to your disembark, your LOA. Why don't we take a boat and go around and come on the other side of the island and disembark that way? And they did. And I had the team that I took over. They were at one of the outstations, and they went forward with their battalion commander. We came to their location, and I was with brigade. And yeah, long story short, we got eight of them. Well, they got eight of them, and one of the high value items of Almeida Parade was like the number 5 on the list at the time, and got him and a couple of his cronies. And I got a Filipino Brown Cross for that. That's probably my highlight of my career. That I got the opportunity to, know that Chris and Jack uh, won't their memory will live on. You know what I mean? And we
Yeah.
got who they, you know what I mean? We got retribution for those guys.
For everyone listening at home, this was in 2009.
9
So same
October.
thing time we're in Afghanistan and Iraq, there were operations in Philippines and roadside IED, right?
Yep,
Hit
they're going
the
up to school. They're building a school way on the other side of the island.
and hit them, then hit their Humvee, and they were both killed. The two occupants of the Humvee were killed by that, and that was my sergeant major. I think he was staff sergeant on that team, or he was sergeant first class. Sean Arntz. He was on that team, and he lost. They lost those two guys. They were killed. So yeah, little known fact by the American population is they were fighting the same mission in other parts of the world, just not very highly publicized at the
Yeah,
time.
250 special operation guys in the Philippines at the time. And what's cool about that too is uh, Chris, one of them, whichever one is it, Chris? One guy that's from Oklahoma. I was doing a go ruck. I used to be a go ruck cadre as well,
Mm-hmm.
and was doing an event, and I basically told him to because you can give war stories while you're doing a go ruck event, and the guy was like, I know the family. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, I know the family. They live like right up the street from me. I was like, oh, cool. You know what I mean? So I gave him my name and stuff like that, uh, and gave him my information. I was like, hey, if they ever want to talk, I'd be more than willing to, talk to him. And his younger sister, graduated BMT here at Lackland Air Force Base, which I'm in San Antonio, which I used to work for the Special Warfare uh, Training Wing, and I got to tell the story to the family in a hotel room uh, about a couple months later what happened to the guys that we know were responsible for that IED.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy because we have such a small community, right? And I mean, I got to Charlie Company, and you walk past those pictures, and then you learn about them and stuff like that, and then you learn who all knew those guys. And now years later, I'm sitting in my basement in Wisconsin, and like talking to the guy because you didn't know me before we started today, and I didn't know you, and now we served in the same hallway, and you have the a missing piece of that story from those pictures in the hallway. It's just crazy how it
Right.
all just comes around. And that's what I loved about doing this is learning more about the history of the guys that came before me and did all of this cool shit, and like keeping the memory of those guys that weren't able to make it back alive. It's it's really honorable. I think I love it. But that's great. You got to. Well, how did the family take that? What was
Uh,
their reaction?
they were thankful that they got some closure, big closure for them. You know what I mean? Because you just don't know. We knew exactly who had done it.
Yeah.
I mean, like 100% knew. Like, and you know how we know.
Yeah, that's not good information that you want to give to some Green Berets, and that hey, they know it was me, and they're gonna be coming after me,
Right.
so they're they're gonna kill you. But good. I mean, fuck them, right?
Right. Fuck 'em. Yep.
So,
Yeah.
how long did you get to be a team leader?
Oh, just fucking 3 years, 3.5 years I was an Okie. And then I was, my goal was just to do 10 years as an O, because you got to do 10 years as an
Yeah.
O to retire as an O. And like 2 years before that, there was Congress had passed a law that says you can do 8 and get out. If you got over 20 already. And at the time I would have been at 24. So I played my cards a little early in the officer world. If you play your cards, that's a wrap. You know what I mean? As far as getting anything else out of the government. So at the time I applied, like I said, I applied to PA school, um, and started my memorandum to exit the military because I wanted to go to PA school. Of course, the Army, Navy, Marines implement that law that got passed by Congress within 30 days. It took the Army 2 years. They finally allowed it the month I was retiring.
What was that?
That was in 2000, June 1st, 2014.
What was the
So
law?
it was to allow, if you had served 8 years as an officer, you could retire as an officer if you had 20 plus years
Mm.
already. And I already had 20 plus at that time. Uh, but you couldn't retire, unless you had 10 years as an officer. Now, you know what I mean? It was just reduced time. Uh, and yeah, so I played my cards. Like I said, I'd already got selected to PA school, and a couple of PT schools. And, at the time, this new battalion commander came in, and he's like, yeah, and I was supposed to like stay in Okinawa, retire out of there, and then go to school. And he's like, yeah, we're sending you back to Bragg so you can retire out of there. He's like, because Kev, I tell a young captain to jump, he's going to ask how high. He's like, you're probably going to tell me, fuck you. You know what I mean? I don't need to jump. Well, you know what I need to jump for? And I don't, you know what I mean? I was just in a different league at the time of my career. And, you know, I didn't have nothing to lose compared to the younger captains that are just coming to group.
Yeah, at that point, you know you're not going to make major, right? And
Well, I mean, I could have made major if you know what I mean, because that's like right at the major mark. But I got, again, like I said, I played my cards early, and so once your battalion commander knows that you're checking out, you don't get rated high anymore.
mm,
You get like middle of the pack, and for a senior captain to get put in the middle of the pack, that's a death sentence.
well, it always has to end, right? It's
Oh
got
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah,
end
yeah,
sometime, and you got to.
yeah.
That's often best to pick when you get out. Like I got medically retired, and I'm still mad about it. I don't think I'll ever not be mad about it. I'm less mad than I was, but I don't think I'll ever get over it. I'm sure my
Right,
listeners are already tired of hearing about me complain about it, but that's the way it goes. So at least you got to choose when you get out. And
right.
so what was the allure of becoming a PA? Because you said you wanted to be a Delta, and that didn't work out. Why did you switch from Delta to Echo?
Uh, at the time in 2000, it was a bonus, a whopping $1,800 bonus,
Hmm.
because I
Okay.
never got a bonus before that. And so, well,
And did that $1,800 change your life?
fuck no. Fucking useless. I should have became a fucking Delta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You should. And you'd have some pretty usable skills now on the
Right.
outside because
Right.
you're probably building antennas all the time now at doing the fitness gig.
To turn back, man, I do. Yes, I know how to cut the frequencies and everything. I throw that over to, up in the trees and my jungle antenna so I can shoot that shot. I don't do any of that stuff, man. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel the same way. Thinking back now, I realized that I took the easy route out by being a Charlie because other than some of the math and explosive stuff, I didn't learn anything in the Charlie course
No.
because I was been in construction since I was 12 up until then.
You were probably teaching the instructors on how to make stuff.
I got called out the first day. Instructor walks in and he goes, "Who has the most experience here?" And every motherfucker in that classroom pointed at me. And he made me class leader. But then after we were done with the construction portion, I didn't get fucked with for the rest of the Charlie course,
Oh,
really.
that's good. Good.
So I was like, well, I guess it worked out. So
That worked out.
I thought I had a good time. So, but maybe, yeah, that's what I think. I look back, I was like, man, I wish it would have been Delta because I'd be working right now. I'd be doing some
Right.
crazy shit overseas and,
EMT,
running some stuff.
yeah, medical, all kinds of stuff. And yeah, my wife, she's like, so the reason why the medical stuff is when I had that break in service I told you about, I was 21 years old, 3 days into me being home. Uh, my dad was 48, stopped smoking cigarettes 3 months prior, um, in like December, but he'd been smoking since the time he was 13 until that 3 months prior when he was 48 years old, and we went to the gym, worked out for 2.5 hours. It was at Omni 41, this fitness place up in Dyer, Indiana. My cousin was the manager. He came and worked. He played racquetball with us. Me and my dad had lifted. We were playing racquetball. We're going up to change and shower. And he grabs my arm. He's like, go get your cousin. And I took off and ran and got my cousin Dennis. Came back and we took back off into the locker room. My cousin ran by the front desk. He said, call 911. My uncle was having a heart attack. And he had a triple bypass at the time. Um, and thankfully, and it's not thankfully, but that it happened in front of us because he used to work at Ford and Hegwish in Chicago. Ford plants are ginormous, and he worked the graveyard shift. So it could have happened him working a graveyard shift way off by himself and bumfucked Egypt. And, you know, he was just lucky that somebody was there. And he had a triple bypass, survived. And one of the guys that was taking care of him was a male nurse. And, at the time I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so that's when I went to college. My was going to hopefully become a nurse. But that integrity thing happened
Mm-hmm.
that I was telling you about. So I was going to school at Indiana University at the time in Bloomington, on track to taking anatomy, physiology, chemistry, uh, all that shit. In this physiology class I was taking, I had a B going into it. Like going into the final, I had a B. And if I just studied a little bit more for the final, I think I could have gotten an A out of it, right? Well, that class starts at 8 o'clock in the morning, and the night before, I probably stayed up until 2 o'clock in the morning, studying 2:30. And I wanted to do some rack ops, and so I set my alarm clock for 7 p.m. And at 8:15, the phone rang. And it was my professor because he knew who I was. Because I would go ask. I was older, 21 years old. I wasn't scared to go talk to an adult, or a teacher or a professor about this coursework, or if I had a question about some you know crib cycle or something like that. I wasn't scared, and so I went. And he knew who I was, and he called me like in my dorm room. He's like, "Hey, Mr. Edgerton, you heard I said 7 p.m. I set that alarm, right? Not 8 or 7 a.m." And so when
Yeah.
at 8:15, when the phone rang, I picked it up, and it's him. And he's like, "Hey, Mr. Edgerton, did you take the test today?" And the test is like a mile and a half away, because Indiana University is a Big Ten school. It's huge, right? And there's no it would take me about 20 minutes to run or take my bike just to get there. Uh, and he I think it was like 8:30, 8:30, 8:45. It was real early, you know what I mean? A lot faster than any other test that I had taken. And he called me and asked, he's like, "Hey, did you take the test?" And I lied immediately. I was like, "Yeah, what do you mean?" "Yeah, I took the test." And he's like, "Okay, well, we don't see your Scantron sheet in here." And he's like, stay by your phone. Give us a couple of minutes. We're going to run, to see if we can find your Scantron. And, so he hung up, and man, that man did not, he called back about 10 seconds later. He's like, "Hey, Mr. Edgerton, by the way, what color were the tests today?" I was like, "They were white. Of course. They're always on white paper, right?" He was like, "Bzzz. All the tests were in red and green, or on red and green paper, because he basically gave out Christmas gifts,
Mm.
because the final only had like two or three questions. You know what I mean? Something real fucking easy." And I had lied to him. He's like, "You know what? For lying to me," he's like, "I'm going to do this for you, Mr. Edgerton." He's like, "I'm going to give you a D minus." And he's like, "Yeah, you can, what's called the FX. You can take it again next semester. Take my physiology class, which I'm sure you'll get an A on, because I have no doubt that, you'd probably ace the test." He's like, "But since I give you a D minus and you get an A next semester, that's still a D average. And for you to get into nursing school, it's a minimum of C average to get in there." So good life lesson, huh?
Hey, that's a tough one. You got to learn that one.
Yeah.
You don't
Swallow
learn
that
that
one
one
hard.
without. That's the worst thing about experience is it's often learned very difficult under
Yeah,
difficult
the hard way, right?
circumstances. Yeah. Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Fuck
Fuck
yeah.
man. That's pretty crafty though, on the professor's part.
Oh
So
yeah, 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 yeah. It's good. You know what I mean? I had no qualms. I don't hold no grudge against them, but you know what I mean? Just that little, yeah, I was there. I don't know what, you know what I mean? Why it came. I should have been like, I overslept. You know what I mean? I should have already called the office and be like, I'm on my way. He would have let me take it. All I had to do was say, I'm on my way. He'd have been like, here, just take it right outside the office. It would have been probably no problem.
that's lesson learned. Honor, yeah, that's why the honor code and the Q course and all the other things. Honor violation is the worst one. You can't
Oh
come back
man.
from that one.
No,
You can
you
come
can't
back
come
from a
back from
lot
that.
of fucked up shit, but you can't come back from an honor violation.
No, you cannot. Most definitely can't come back from honor violation.
So, so why did we not get into the PA program after the service? Did you
Uh,
just what foot fitness was really more of
yeah.
the
So
draw?
yeah. So when I was like we go to the fitness thing, and when I was in Iraq, before that in '98, like I said, I had broken my ankle, so I had to get back into shape. And I mean, I'm working out like a crackhead. I got my personal training certificate because I really liked fitness in 1998, and was doing that. And then that was the men's health chest and by days back in whatever, you know what I mean? It was just what everybody else does basically. And then in '05, I'm in Iraq, and I got this other guy. His name is called Kevin. Is Kevin Graham, and he's a jujitsu guy. Oh, I don't know if you know this, but I'm a jujitsu guy as well. I've been doing that since 2001. Uh, and so we known each other, and we're a 10th group together. We're working out chest and buys before we deploy, back and buys, whatever. And we get to RPC, and he's like, "Hey man, we're gonna start doing this program." I was like, "Okay, what is it?" He's like, "Yeah, it's online, man. The workouts are online." I was like, "Well, how'd you hear about it?" He's like, "Oh, my buddy BJ Penn does it." I'm like, "The fuck? You don't know who the fuck BJ Penn is? Do you know who BJ Penn is?"
I
He's the
do.
UFC lightweight champ,
Yeah.
two-time champ. I'm like, you don't know. He's like, no, man, I'm a Ralph Gracie brown belt. And he was a Ralph Gracie brown belt. And I was just giving him shit. And so we did CrossFit. It was BJ at the time was doing CrossFit to get ready for like one of his title fights. And
What year is
like the
this?
first one, huh? This is in
What year?
2005.
Oh, this is way
2005.
back. Okay.
Way. There was less than 10 CrossFits in the world at the time. And we do it's I think it's I don't know the name of it, but it's the 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, 15 air squats for 20 minutes, as many rounds as you can. And there's three Green Berets, me and another guy and Kevin. We do this workout, and after 20 minutes, we're like on our ass, like what the fuck was that, and I mean, I went hard into the paint. Like I was doing those work like 2 a day. I came back, you know where the elevation is in Colorado Springs is, right? I
Oh
got
yeah.
back from that deployment. I ran my fastest 2 mile ever in like 12:10 at elevation. And we're talking less than 7 days from being back from Iraq, from sea level to above sea level that high. So I would have probably been a sub 11 if I was anywhere else in the world. And yeah, and just took off from that. And fitness is one of those things that I've always been good at, athletic wise. I started wrestling when I was 8. I started baseball when I was 5. Started football when I was 8. Uh, After I got cut from my freshman year of high school from baseball, I walked on to the soccer team the next day and started left wing. I'm from Indiana, so I can play basketball.
Mm.
Uh, I play
Rest in
tennis
peace,
now.
Gene Hackman.
Yeah, I mean, I play tennis now, so and wrestling, switching over to jujitsu was an easy thing. I started that in like 2001. I just got my black belt in January after 23 years of doing jits. Uh, so yeah, you know what I mean. And so fitness was just one of those things that I've been lured to. But when I got to Okinawa, we got our first strength coach in 2010. We got a strength coach and a PT, and I'm like, whoa, what's these guys? You know what I mean? What's this guy do? And I did CrossFit, and we I was helping the team in Okinawa. We went to the Asian Games. Won the Asian Games. The team did. I was actually training two females at the time, and then my strength coach was like, "Man, why don't?" He's like, "Instead of going to PA school, why don't you just go get your master's degree in exercise physiology, man?" He's like, "You're a shoo-in to be a strength coach at any of the special operations places." And I was like, "Oh man, that would be fucking great." You know what I mean? That was. Could you imagine? I get to work out kids and work out doing something I love
Yeah.
at the same time for the same thing. So I went, and when I got back, that again, one of those things that I didn't want to leave Okinawa, but when I got sent back to Bragg to finish up my last 18 months, I finished up my master's degree in exercise sports science, took my CSCS, passed that. And then I was fortunate enough to get a gig at the Air Force for the Special Warfare Training Wing. And at the time, it was just a squadron. And yeah, ran that for 7 years down here in Lackland, where I trained all PJs, combat controllers, tech Ps, and special reconnaissance guys. Any of the Air Force special operation guys, I trained for fucking 7 years.
The focus on fitness has come a long way, especially in SF, right? Because the war kicks off and it's all about war, and then we start getting into the science of fitness, and guys need to be more active. And I was talking with this about my wife. I don't remember really any focus on fitness when I went through the course in 2013, I think. Yeah, in 13, guys, we would show up, do a course, whether it was SUT or SEER or um, the Star, whatever it was, crush it, and then party until we started the next one. There was no real focus on anything in training. I think that's changed now. But yeah, I don't remember. I mean, these and the guys, the single guys, that's all they did was party. They would party all the time, and then they'd show up, crush, and then would just fade off and go do nefarious shit off on the out in the town, and then just
Right.
show back up for formation. But I think that's changed now. Obviously, you're seeing some of that.
I mean, it's uh, so well, the guys that I'm training that I got were basically like the ones going through our selection. All right.
Okay.
Not the Q course. There's a big difference between, you know what I mean? They go on to the Q course. I was working with the guys that's trying to get selected uh, in the PJs, combat controllers, tech Ps, or special reconnaissance. I'm not
Who has the hardest selection though?
anything but this water, man. It's got water. It's got water.
So
These guys
not
got
us, not
water.
us. No.
And yeah, the same with seals. It's you know what I mean. It's anything with water, man. That's
Yeah.
now that the Air Force they dumbed it down. It's not 11 weeks pre-dive anymore. They got an actual real selection part, but it's still got water. And then they got pre-dive for 3 weeks, and then they go off to dive school instead of a whole 11 weeks of PJs was very special, and that was 11 weeks of their selection. That was NDOC used to be 11 weeks. Like, I don't know about. Could you imagine doing a selection for 11 weeks? I can't either, right?
I swim 1,000 meters every other day, and I can't imagine doing more than that.
And every day, it was run, go to the pool, lunch, go open water swim. Next day, run, go to the pool, lunch. What you know what I mean? And it was absolutely the amount is unbelievable to do that for 11 weeks.
What's the train up look like for, because you know you're going into that? Do you even have to focus too much on it, or are they going to get you
Oh,
ready while you're there?
you're better. Your whole thing better be uh, like 3 of your 6 days of training better be focused on swimming.
Yeah.
On That's all the techniques. That's underwater bobbing, treading, traveling, freestyle, finning. The better that's better be your biggest focus.
It sounds horrible to
Yeah.
me. It really does.
I don't. Did you ever work with any combat controllers or no?
No, no, I never
Yeah,
did.
man.
I
Those
got a
some good guys.
message. I got a
Yeah, dude.
message from a buddy of mine No, on my old team, he sent me a message on Facebook one night in Afghanistan. He's like, you know, so and so. And he's like, and I said, yeah. He's like, he's an Air Force special operations guy attached to our team. I said, oh, take him out on a mission and show him what's up.
Yeah.
That's just no. I never worked with anybody. Got a couple friends that were, so I'm looking to have some more people on the show to learn more about it. I know, like my friend, he went through the pipeline, and he got to do all the cool schools, dive,
Well, they all
Halo.
they,
That's
everything.
their pipeline. They do
Yes,
everything before they
that
even get to
in
their
their pipe.
unit.
Right, right, yeah. So when we were in the Philippines in Holo, uh, we had a controller there, and I won't give out his name, but well, he just retired, so he's fine. But anyway, he was there. He got kicked out of the island by a regular army guy, and I didn't know this. He was the flight, he was some aviator guy. But lo and behold, I saw him. He became a cadre here, and I was like, bro, I know you. You know what I mean? You're doing that. I, and then we got to talking, and he's like, "Oh man, you were in fucking task force, whatever we were in Holo." He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh yeah, fucking, I remember your ass." Became good friends. But their mission is just, it's really cool. I got some really good friends after being here at Lackland that are controllers. Uh, that a couple Silver Stars, one Air Force Cross recipient. Did some really amazing shit from the time of 2001 until it ended. They were out there gunning and running and gunning. But what makes them unique is they get assigned to an ODA or a SEAL team, and then when that SEAL team or ODA rotates out, and they're still there because they're 6 months from that baby up, they got to, you know, get cohesive with a whole nother team. So that's, in my opinion, that's kind of hard to, just you're an outsider looking in, but you're part of the team all the time. So they have to have their mentality and their personal skills need to be on par, because you know how hard it is to become a part of an ODA as it is, let alone an outside entity.
Some people have trouble with it. I mean, it's tough walking into the team room, right? That's an intimidating thing. And ODA is can be a rough bunch of individuals.
Uh-huh.
And, you've got some A-type personalities that are, all of them aren't dealing with their mental health, personal issues. They're sacrificing their whole life just to stay on the team and things like that. So yeah, that's a tough thing to walk into, and your Air Force on top of it. So you got to be squared away. You got to be physically fit. You got to know your shit, or they're just going to shit all over you.
Right.
So
Yeah. And then another guy, I don't, do you know who Jeremy Border is? He passed. He was on 1111 in Afghanistan, that rotation that I would have been on if I didn't hurt my neck. Uh,
name sounds familiar.
so he was like a couple weeks before they're ripping back. He got killed, and the controller, what became like he was the highest ranking NCO at like this one section here at the schoolhouse as well. And we became good friends as well, because he went to the funeral and stuff, because he's from Texas. Jeremy's from Texas. So he went up to the funeral. We had a service in Okinawa for Jeremy and stuff. So, that whole big circle and how the community is really small. It's pretty unique, you know. So yeah, their job, one of the cool ones. Any of the special reconnaissance gig, in my opinion, is probably that golden ticket. You get all the cool guys' skills, and then your special reconnaissance as well. I got a good friend that does that. But yeah, and then I got a couple PJ friends that again, when that was NDOC, man, it was something else.
Who do you get the most people looking to improve to go to selection for? Is it the Air Force side or
Right now, I mean, I got the numbers used to, they're about, it's like 60-40. I got 60% more Air Force guys than I do Green Berets, just because before it used to be more Green Berets, but there's newer, and I think there's newer and younger guys that's, tailoring towards the special operations selections. Oh, and then there's a bunch of AI job boonies that's out there too, or people that's never done anything that's trying to get into this realm. that I've had a couple of clients switch over that followed somebody else's stuff. And when you look on it, it's like, bro, this guy he wasn't even a green, he wasn't even anything. And I don't even know if he's been a strength coach.
That's the internet. They're full of you. You got to be able to sense if some of the influencers are full of shit. You know,
Yeah, you got to be
um,
able to sense some of that shit, you know? Uh, it's just
even
mind boggling to me that, you know what I mean? That you're going to not follow, you know what I mean? Get something from somebody that's not wanting. Now, I did it 2 times, becoming, you know, a Green Beret, and then was a strength coach for 7 years and done my business. You know what I mean? It's just, you know, then you're going to follow somebody that has no experience as being an operator, no experience as a strength coach. And then that maybe they have, maybe you were an operator, maybe you were, but do you have the experience at a selection with the young guys that's trying to attain something? Because that's a whole different world. You know what I mean? That's the selections is a totally different thing. You know, you can be a great operator, a great PT guy and sell stuff, but does your program work for everybody? That's the biggest thing.
oh God, I look at myself, right? The way I train, it's not going to work for very many other people than me.
Right.
It's very restrictive, but it keeps me focused, right? It's keeps me working. Or most people can't like narrow their focus to that point. You gotta, you get the whole thing. But I knew what I was training for when I was going to selection to not go back to my unit. I was like, I'm never fucking coming back here. Okay, when we went to selection the first time, I killed my feet and my legs. What am I going to do? I'm going to make those so strong that there's no chance that I hurt myself. And that's what I did. Just heavy shit on my back, walking, rucking, squats, and determination. And that's something you can't teach. Do you have people show up and you kind of or you talk to them and you do your questioning and you go, "Are you sure this is what you want to do?"
Yeah. Yeah. It's you gotta, I gotta, there's, so when we're at the, you know, it was called white team, the guys that you might have got injured or something, you know, at the course. And we're supposed to rehab them because the Air Force is a little bit more forgiving than like the Army, where it's like, yeah, you're not ready to go back and come try again. For the Air Force though, it's not like immediately. You can't come back in a year. It's like 2 or 3 years later. It's not right away. They don't just come right. These and then what's different is most of these guys are off the street. You know what I mean? Then you're going to go right into becoming a special operations guy.
Air Force is all off the street, isn't it? Everybody's
No,
coming right.
some prior service guys come back, but I'm talking that's probably less than 5%
Yeah,
that they
that's
let come
crazy.
over. So you know what I mean. So man, that's a lot. That's a steep learning curve to get guys. You know what I mean. The guys that do come, that there were some monsters that, you know, they just knew the job. You know, they did their research and they knew that this is what they wanted to do. Uh, but then you get the guys that just, you know, played Call of Duty and they show up and it's like, this
Come
is
on. You're telling me
this is
Call of Duty's not a transferable skill over to special operations? Come on.
yeah, no, it's not. And you know what? When I was on the One's Ready podcast, and I had mentioned that, you know, for physicality stuff, you know, uh, nobody cares what you can bench, deadlift, or squat. I don't.
I care. Just
I, I,
for the viewing audience out there, I care.
yeah, you
So
should.
okay.
Yeah, I give two. Like I said, I give two fucks what those numbers are,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, you could probably squat the most, deadlift the most, bench the most. That's fine, but can you put that tick on your back and move the fuck out for 365 miles in 21 days like we did? And can you carry other heavy shit for
Yeah.
21 days? You know, that's all that matters. Like, and again, I did a little segment on Facebook, not Facebook, on Instagram, asking, you know what I mean? I was explaining, what body part do you think is the most important body part for your respective selection?
Oh,
Body
okay.
part. And but
Okay.
you said it, both mine and yours got destroyed the first time. And they did.
Legs
So
and
these
feet, man.
your feet, your feet are the most important part, and that's the least worked on.
Yeah. You that will cause you the most pain is when your feet hurt because
Oh yeah.
there's no escaping it
No.
at any event. The only
Oh,
time is when you're sitting plotting your next painful leg of the star course when you get a
yes.
break off of your feet. That's the only time that you're
Only
not,
time.
yeah, when you have to do some mental calculations. Otherwise, you're on your feet the whole time. I was running string, and this is an exaggeration. I was running string for my sewing kit through my blisters to keep them from getting bigger, just so that they wouldn't compress with all the fluid in there.
Right, right, right.
And looking back, like, yeah, and there's obviously that's what I did because I wasn't gonna fucking fail. I was just make it happen, and that's that's just, you make decisions. You go, I don't care if it hurts. I don't care how bad it hurts. I'm going to finish this. I'm gonna make it to the end. I'm gonna get selected, or at least I'm not gonna quit. You're not gonna
Right,
quit.
right. I'm not gonna quit.
And that's a mentality because once you get to that point, well, then you can push a little bit further and you can push a little bit further. And that's the whole course, right? The whole being a Green Beret thing is they want you to be so good at being in pain or uncomfortable that when you have to do it later, when people's lives are at stake, you can just
Not
you can just keep going.
right, right.
Because that's what I'm learning with like heart rate data, right? I can push my heart rate up, and but then if I can make my mind push my body, my heart rate will just slowly start to tick down, even though I'm running it flat out. I'm dying, but I can get a little bit more. I can get a little bit more, a little bit more. And I'm 240 pounds. Like, oh, that's a lot of meat to move.
That's a lot.
So yeah, it sucks. I keep getting bigger and stronger. So I'm having to do more cardio now than strength.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do some cardio now, but my cardio is like tennis.
Oh, uh,
But
mine's
I can
not.
still roll. I got the rower skier and biker over here. Like my, I don't know if you've ever know what real good times are on a 500-meter row is, but when I was a alpha, when I was a team leader, I rode 10 500 meters at a 132 clip with a minute rest.
Minute rest. I think my best is 124.
Yeah, but I'm talking 10,
You did 10 in a row.
right, with a minute rest, and the average was a 132.
I don't think I can do that. My heart rate goes up, so I think I'd be in some trouble.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
145 I could probably do.
yeah, 145. That's good too. But I mean, I could. That's what it was. You know what I mean? I could do that no problemo. And I was like, and I got done with it. I was like, yeah, which was one of those things. Is like, whew,
Well, I'm hoping that the 25.3 CrossFit Open workout tomorrow is like max reps of 315 on bench or something like that, so I can really separate myself from
right?
the other
Yeah.
because I'm way down at the moment. Those
I haven't
burpees
done.
did not do me any favors.
I haven't done a CrossFit Open workout. And God, I don't know.
Yeah, I was,
Yeah, that, that,
I was proud of myself though. They had double unders in this pat one, and I, I got some out. I finally figured out how to do them.
oh, really?
Yeah, the 40, a set of 42, and then the second set was 36,
You have to do
and
bar
then
muscle ups too.
I didn't. I had six more thrusters, and then I would have had to do the bar muscle ups. I just couldn't. I couldn't breathe anymore. So I'm beating the shit out of this jump rope, but I'm not breathing
Right.
because I can't keep the rhythm and breathe and jump at the same time. So
Right.
I'd finish six, and then I'm completely out of breath because I'm holding my breath for almost a minute now because I have to do two singles, one double, two
Right.
singles, one double.
What the-
Oh, it's so embarrassing. A big man like me, and just I'm like, man, I feel like a living idiot, but whatever, whatever. Hope, like I said, hopefully it's bench tomorrow. 15 minutes for max reps at 315, maybe
You'll be good.
405. We'll see what we can get. I don't know. But
Yeah,
what?
I used to
Yeah.
be 225 and could bench 315. Like if you couldn't start off at 225 when I was at Echo, if you couldn't start off at 225 on our bench, you weren't allowed to come. Yeah,
Yeah.
just go over there somewhere
First
and
battalion
work.
is First Battalion the stronger battalion in first group, or because some teams are stronger than other teams. There's fitter teams and stronger teams. What were you guys out there?
Monsters. Fucking, they were monsters, just monsters. Yeah, it was. Yeah, there's some big boys in Charlie Company.
Oh,
There was
Charlie
one
Company
team.
especially.
There
Yeah.
was those. There was some like one team. I think the average height was like 6'4" to 6'5". These dudes were the biggest guys I've ever. You know what I mean? You've seen me like, good lord, I wouldn't want these guys to come through the door.
I interviewed somebody the other day and I said, "What's the big difference you've noticed from the generations?" And he goes, "I don't know what it is, man, but your generation are fucking big. Oh my
Yeah,
God. Everybody from, you know, Vietnam through 2000, it was mostly the same size dudes. And then all of a sudden, everybody's 6'5" and 250 pounds. I was like, well, I'm not that size, but
right.
that's, yeah. What do you think happened there? The change? Was it just different people wanting to
I
do the
think
job or just the generation thing?
probably a combination of both.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I said, I used to be bigger than I am now. I used to walk around 225 to 230. But you know, I can't handle I couldn't handle carrying that anymore.
Oh, come on.
Hurt, man. I'm 55. It's you know what I mean. My neck hurts, my shoulder hurts. You know, back sometimes hurts, but most of my stuff now, I do mobility work just so I can move.
I saw on your page you had breath work and mobility work. What's the deal there?
So the mobility stuff is to get the capsular space open, so you can actually have full range of motion. So if you're swimming, you can come all the way through, go overhead press with
Yeah, I do.
no
I'm like
problemo.
this.
You know, some people they can't even get this. They for you know to do a push up if you don't have a 90, your wrist will be jacked, right? There's just so many things that if your body doesn't allow you to get in that position, usually you're going to destroy it if your body can't even get into that position. So that's why I focus a lot on mobility. The breath work stuff came when NDOC, because to finish to graduate NDOC, these guys after 11 weeks had to do 70 push-ups in 2 minutes. You know, army push-ups, the regular old school one, which isn't bad, but
Yeah.
the 6'5" guys 70 push-ups, that's a lot of movement, man. And that's what most of the guys would fail is the tall guys because they can't move their body that fast to get the 70 reps in. And so I read a book called What Doesn't Kill Us by Scott Carney, and Wim Hof does a breath work thing, and then on a breath hold, he doubled Scott Carney's like push-ups that he did pre, and then when he did the breath work post, they did the push-ups. And the guy increased by like 10. And if you can get a 10 additional push-ups on a breath hold of how you ever, you know what I mean? I don't care who you are, and you can actually test it. God, that was like huge. Like it was so what you do is you do 30 deep breaths in and you know, make sure you're using your whole diaphragm and right. And then on the 30th breath, you know, you hold it or exhale it, whichever one you want to do. Hold it for about 20 seconds, and then you take a deep breath in. You do that for 3 or 4 rounds, and then after your fourth round, you do the same breath work, and then you hold it and go down and start doing push-ups on a hold, on a breath hold. Do as many as you can, and then once you get that number, and you got to breathe, stop for a second, collect yourself, get your breath back, and then on every movement afterwards, it's very timed. You know what I mean? Just like you do a bench, breathe in, down, up for the rest of the time that you go through. And I tested that on students, and each one of them increased from anywhere from 10 to 15. And most of those guys were like 4 to 6 off from passing that 70% and so, to what, 70. And once I implemented that, nobody failed push-ups ever again after that. If they had a, you know what I mean? And usually the cadre would have to be like, hey, Kev, show them the technique, right? And I would show them the technique on how to do that.
Interesting. Huh.
So, and then breath work, again, for water is huge. If you can hold your breath on land, you know, the reasoning is you should be able to do it in the water, but you got to do steps with it. You can't, you know what I mean? Just do breath hold work out of the water and then go, no, let's go push, let's see if we can do a 50-meter underwater, right? No, you start slow, right? You just get in the water, do the breath hold, and just stick your head in there, right? Make sure somebody's watching you and stuff. And then, you know, when you got to take a breath, you come with breath. But if you always have somebody up on top of the pool deck, uh, timing you, it's, you know, telling you and coaching you, you can improve so much faster than just, hey, let's go do it. And, you know, like you and myself, when you go with the swim team, like, hey, it's easy for them, but it's not easy for everybody. But if you show them the technique on how to hold their breath, it actually, you can actually do it.
Yeah, the panic factor with the water is you
And so
need
I
to
would,
learn that.
besides just the water, I would have them start holding breath, doing carries as well. You know, outside the water, if you can show your body that you can do this stuff, and I would have them, you know, have the clock up on the board,
Oh, you just mean
and
farmers carries and shit?
yeah, just farmers carry, just, you know what I mean. After the breath hold, do a hold and grab the weights and move as long as you can. Have the clock on the board and tell them, you know, what the time is, a minute and a half, 2 minutes. If you can show them that you can do the work on that breath hold to get them in the water is so much easier.
Yeah, I found that when I just first jump in the pool, I can only do just I can hit the wall and make the turn, but then if I do after my swim, I can do it much easier down,
Down
breath
in that,
holds
yeah.
and stuff. Is that just because I'm expanding my capacity?
Right.
Okay.
And
Well,
then again, your lungs are a muscle too. You know, it's your diaphragm is a muscle. So you can, all the other muscles that you have, you can build your muscle, your diaphragm, just as much as you can do any other muscle if you actually work on it.
yeah, it's nobody likes doing cardio, but that's the one area that it shouldn't hold you back in any aspect of being a Green Beret or an Air Force guy or whatever. And
Nope.
some of the selections, like you can get away with cardio sucking in the Q course, though. You could
Oh yeah,
for
yeah, yeah.
sure. I don't think you can over in the Air Force side,
No, no, you
um,
cannot.
because I remember we did the upper body round robin, and you do the physical event, and then we did a ruck march. No, we did the 5 mile,
Right.
and I just absolutely crushed the first 8 events, right? Just super high score, and I ran like a 39:59, and that's passing, you know. 8 minute miles is
Right.
still passing, but there were
Yes,
guys
yes.
running 28-minute 5 miles and shit like
Right.
that. Like, well, that's not going to be me. But I
Yeah,
did
but you didn't
60.
have no, you didn't have no problem moving any weight though either.
Well, I did 65 dips, so that's my
Yeah.
trade off.
Yeah. Right.
Nutrition, that's it. Is there any portion that you're working the way to eat with into this fitness program, or is that's not you? That's somebody else?
That's somebody else. I'm not. I mean, I provide in my programs I provide a handout, right? But I don't deep dive into the nutrition stuff. It's not my world. It's not my realm. I'm not a dietitian. My nutrition sucked basically my
Oh,
whole. You know what I mean? I like sweet stuff, and so it's not my thing. You know what I mean? There's better people for that than myself, and I've never deep dived into it. I mean, I watch what I eat. We only cook. My wife's from the island, so the food she makes is amazing. And yeah, it's just not my thing. And then there's dietitians for that stuff. You know what I mean? There's a very specific people and nutritionists that do that stuff. So I don't get into it.
yeah. I Mine's real simple. I say first ask somebody else if you want some advice.
Right, right,
And then if you still want to know what I do is I hit my protein targets and I take creatine. As long as you do those two things, you're probably
right,
going to fix almost all of your problems.
right, right. Yeah,
So mine, like I said, my fitness philosophy is very restrictive. There's very few rules, but it's very difficult to get everybody else into that mindset.
right.
So looking back, like when you started this journey and you're like, I'm going to get into SF, did you accomplish everything that you wanted to? Were there anything along the way where you like, I wish I would have done that? Because you said at one point, if I would have wanted that mission set, I would have gone and tried out for the varsity team. Was that
Yeah,
ever an
that
option?
that was probably the only thing. You know what I mean? I wouldn't mind trying that, but thinking back on it, I had kids at the time, and that mission set is even harder on a family than just us JV guys.
JV guys. Oh well, no, we'll see. I have booked a guy from the unit. Hopefully, I can get some more information out of him. Probably most of it'll be off recording though, of stuff
Right. Oh
he
yeah,
can
I'm sure.
actually
Yeah,
tell
yeah.
me.
Because they can't. Yeah. Their selection, but I've trained a guy
Yeah, that's
that
another
passed,
question.
and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I got a guy that's done that. You know what I mean? And then recently, I had a guy pass MARSOC too that followed my program. But those are uh, my top tier ones. I got a custom plan. You know what I mean? And I'm very
How many months? How many
dialed
months
in.
is that plan looking like for OTC?
Well, minimum of 4 months. I'm not doing anything less than 4 months for you.
Yeah.
There's no way. It's not, you know what I mean? You got to do 4 months of hard. And then even if 4 months is behind the curve, you should be 6 months out training for that if you're going to OTC, in my opinion.
Phew. That's a rough world. It's just like another example of you're already a bad motherfucker. Wow, let's see how
Right.
much farther we can push it, right?
How much
Can
more
can we get to that
badass
next
can you
level?
be? Right.
And then you get there, and then there's other shit to do when you're there too.
I know
Ugh.
that you can get picked up by some other shit that's like, wow.
And then you
Yeah.
got
Yeah. I'm
color, you
glad
did different colors and shit. Yeah.
yeah. All the different, fuck. Yeah. That's, you know what I mean? That's, that's probably the biggest regret. I mean, I guess the only other one is Ranger School,
Why Ranger School though? Because a lot of guys are either hung up or they're not hung up about it.
so
When I was a staff sergeant, I first got to group. My senior, he goes, Ranger School was fucking stupid, man.
oh
I
yeah, yeah,
worked
yeah.
my ass off and got no goed, and then I fucking was a shitbag my second time through, and I got my
And I,
tab. So
right,
there's no point in it. And
right.
ever since then, I went, well, maybe he's got something right there.
So like with everything, I when I went to officer basic course in Fort Leonard Wood, uh, they one camo per class could win a Ranger School slot. Of course, I won the Ranger School slot, and so
Okay.
I went down to Benning, uh, and you know what I mean. You're learning how regiment works because I don't know. I've never been to regiment. Don't know how that stuff works and how that you know what I mean. And I was like, shit, I'm gonna go fucking go to Ranger School and I'm gonna go immediately to regiment. You know what I'm saying? Uh, I'm I'm not gonna go. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna go to Ranger School and not go to regiment. That was my mentality. When I get down to Benning and you start talking to the E8s that's running pre-ranger because I did pre-ranger at Benning. Of course, I passed the motherfucker.
Of
Um,
course. Of course.
it was fucking a joke. You know what I mean? It was like I was like, example, land nav. Here's 4 points. You know what I mean? They give you a sheet. Get four of these points. I came back in like an hour and a half. Here's your 4 points. They're like, go find more. Gave me a whole nother sheet. I was like, what the fuck? What? You know how it is in SF. You find your fucking stuff, you're done. You just lay over off to the side and you wait until the 4 hours are up, and then then everybody else comes in. I was like, fuck. I went and found like 2 more points and went to sleep and
Yeah.
came back. Right. And then the cadre is like, "Oh, you only found 2 points." I was like, yeah, on top of the other 4 points that I found too, buddy. This, you know what I mean? I was like, what? It was dumb, the gayest stuff ever. Right. And though, this is, I'm going to be an officer, and to do it, the thing was, you have to go to Korea for a year to learn how to become an officer before they'll let you to come back to Benin to try out at RIP. And I was like, can I, you know what I mean? Afterwards, can I go talk to somebody about this methodology? You know what I mean? I don't think I need to go to Korea to figure out how to become an officer. I've been in for like at the time, like 16 years. I think I can figure it out. And I go up and I talk. I got to see it. The camo. He's a major, and he's at the regiment headquarters. And I go in there and I was like, "Hey, my name's Kevin Edgerton." Da, da, da. I was like, "Hey, is there a way once I get done to not go to Korea and just go to regiment?" And he's like, "Well, if I did it for you, I would have to do it for everybody." I was like, "Well, hey, I know you don't see it, but I got this tab is bigger than that little one.
Seems to be a theme of your career as an officer is you just going
Right.
like this the
Yeah,
whole
just keep
time.
going like that, right? And I was like, really? I was like, I need to go learn how to become an officer in Korea for a year, and then this is my second kid was just born. I was like, I don't want to. So long story short, I was like, fuck, I'm not even going to go to, you know what I mean? I was like, you're not going to let me, I'm not going to go to Korea for a year. I don't want to do that, because I already had orders for Carson. I'm not going to Korea. And then maybe I come back in a year and I got to try out. Why don't I just go to Ranger School, come back, try out. And if I'm good enough, then I go. And if not, then I just go to Carson. He's like, well, if I did it for you, I'd have to do it for, I'm like, how many other chemical officers, one, have a long tab, two, even have a Ranger tab? You know what I mean? And it's this many have that, right?
Yeah.
So I just told him, I just like, fuck, I'm not going to Ranger School. He's like, what? I was like, yeah, fuck, I don't need that school. He
Yeah.
was shocked that I told him that I don't need that fucking school. You know what I mean? But again, at the end of the day, I could have did it upside down on my head. That's just the way it is.
You never know. A tree might have fallen on you and got killed. You don't know. So
Right. Yeah. Or, during the mountain phase, I might have slid and broke my neck or something, something.
yeah. So you'd have a story. Yeah. Be forced to med withdrawal. You'd have a story about you forcibly quitting for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe it worked out for the best. Maybe it didn't. So that's what
No, it worked
I
out
try
great
and
because
look
I
at.
got to go to 10th group, man. It worked out great.
Yeah. Well, being where you want to be is always better than fucking letting the army dictate where you're going, right? Um, who did I talk to earlier? He's like, control the controllables and influence the uncontrollables as much as you can. And that's really good advice for the military. If you think something's out of your control, the army's gonna fuck you over if you think hard, and you'll be at NTC 6 times in a row is what's gonna happen.
Yeah. And then on top of that NTC rotation, then you learn that like, oh, you would get orders to go to Korea and you go to Korea for a year, but guess where those guys came right back to? Right back to hood. They were, I was like, oh. I've seen like three or four other NCOs do that. I was like, oh no, no, no way am I going to do a rotation in Korea and come right back to Fort Hood.
That was, one of the things when I was in Fort Sill was they would go from Sill to Korea, Sill, Korea back to Sill, and they
Right.
just bounce in there, and nobody would ever get promoted because they'd get an Article 15 every time they went to Korea, and they'd get in trouble. Everyone that was in charge of me when I came into the military at my first unit, the day I got out, I outranked. They would
Wow.
everybody that was in charge of me at Fort Sill. I outranked the day I got out of the military. So
That's
that's
crazy.
that's kind of the world you get away from. You look back, you go, man, I'm so glad I got out of that place. And if
So glad.
anybody's listening from my first unit, well, I'm right. What was a time in your career where it all came together, like the pinnacle? Was it being a team leader as on an
Yeah.
ODA?
Hmm. That was the pinnacle. Miss it every day.
That's what everybody says, right? And the team sergeants, they want to be a team sergeant forever. Team leaders, being on the team.
I, and if I had one thing to change, instead of becoming I wish I'd have became a warrant as well because I could have been on the team forever.
Yeah, why didn't you do that?
Because at the time you couldn't get your degree, and at the time I really wanted my degree. You know what I mean? And I
Mm-hmm.
knew if you become an officer, they give you time to finish up and get your degree.
Oh, but you could have, done 15 more years on
Oh, I
three
know,
different
but at the
teams.
time I was like I said, they wouldn't.
Yeah.
Nobody would have blessed off on that when I was switching. And at the time, when I did switch to become an officer, my wife was in at the same time, and we had two kids, and daycare for an E4 and an E6. Good lordy, that's one of our checks was just
Yeah.
daycare. So and then you're looking like, oh shit, I become an officer. Fuck that. You ain't got to work, baby.
Yeah.
It's like hitting
Yeah.
the lottery. Shit. O3E maxed out. You know what that
Yeah.
kind of pay is from going from an E6 to O3E pay? Oh my God. Or
That's a
one,
whole
O1E, whatever. Yeah.
that's a whole different world there. But
Man. Shit.
so I think I don't know if I asked this before. How'd you end up in San Antonio though?
Oh, the strength conditioning position
The
at
last one that you had? Okay.
mhm, yep,
How
yep.
big's
And
the
my
gym
wife,
you guys got there?
what's that?
How big's the gym you guys got there?
At Blackland?
No, yours there, 18L
Oh,
Fitness.
just this. Uh, so I got a couple. Oh, not. Oh, I'm picking up my computer and I got my camera. So let me. I just wheel this around. Just got a rack, and then I got a bunch of shit over here. Jump box, bike erg, bench, GHD.
Fuck yeah, man. That's all you need.
Yep, that's all you need. You don't need anything else but that. And it
Well,
took. It looked when I first started. It was kind of a mess. And then my wife, she's OCD, and she came in here and she's like, "No, we're cleaning all this up and painting, and now it looks like a reputable business." It's supposed to, you know what I mean? I had built a platform and it had the SF crest on it, and well, basically the patch with the three things that on my platform, because I was big into CrossFit and Olympic lifting at the time. And again, once you start getting older, I don't care what I can snatch or what I can clean. I'm just glad I can move a kettlebell still and swing a tennis racket at this time. I don't. Again, I don't care about anything about the strength part.
oh, really? Yeah, I'm in PRs for all my lifts at the moment. Every time I get a little bit stronger is we're getting onto a PR. So it's an interesting time at the gym right now for me.
And
But
how old are you?
38.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I've been there, done that too.
Yeah. But I mean, I mean the amount of food and like the sticking to the plan and restricting the amount I'm lifting too.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
forcing myself to recover more.
Okay.
Uh,
Good.
that's where I've learned a lot on that is it's not all about killing yourself every day. It's working.
Just body rest.
Yeah, I mean, a heavy leg day with 3 exercises, that's tough to recover from when
Uh-huh.
you're doing reps of heavy
Right.
heavy weight.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
It is.
what's what are you telling new guys that are coming to you first thing that were wanting to go into the special operations roles that don't know what they're getting themselves into? Are you giving them something to
So
as like,
I communicate within my app. So I give them, you know what I mean? I give them, I send them not a check. I'd send them a check sheet. Basically, this is what I expect of you guys. Uh, this is how you navigate the app. But I'm not here to hold your hand. You
mhm.
got to want to do this. You got to want to put in the work, because at the end of the day, I can't help you put in the work. All I can do is provide you the steps to be successful. And if you don't want to put in the work, then that basically that's on you, because this job is not easy. Uh, but it's extremely rewarding. But if you're not willing to put in the work and sacrifice the time, uh, special operation guys just don't want you.
Yeah, the higher you go up, the more higher the unit, right? There's the less tolerance for bullshit there is.
Right.
Like SF will put up with a lot of shit if you're competent and strong and you fail, but then they'll put up with some of your shit. Sergeant Major will put up with it for a little bit, but you gotta figure it out. You have to have that whatever it is that gets you through selection in the course, without getting a DUI or ruining your life is the same shit that'll keep you in regiment. So it is interesting. I love meeting all the now people because everybody I'm talking to is out now and they got a whole different perspective of how things change throughout their career. Was
Yeah.
was what you thought SF was in the beginning? Did it turn out to be that way, or was it much more after going through it all?
I think I remember when I was it was pre-war. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There wasn't nothing. Bosnia was like just starting to kick off, or Kosovo, but uh, man, it turned into more than what I expected.
Yeah. That's something tough to convey to anyone, right? To
No,
that.
yeah, you can't articulate this to nobody unless you've actually done it. You know, even being on a sports team, you know what I mean? And you'd have to been on a really high level team like the University of Alabama football team, or you know what I mean, Notre Dame, or
Yeah.
one of the big schools that you know what your task was to get the job done. Uh, that's and then even at the end of the day, I don't think that they don't get it because they did to go home and sleep in a different area. We
Yeah.
always when we're on ODA, when you're out deployed, everybody's lottie dottie right there with you. You eat, breathe, sleep together, uh, and so I know more about my teammates than I do family members.
Mm. Ain't that the truth, right? Yeah. Fucking yeah. And then it's too bad we don't keep as close a contact now that we're out. But that's one
Oh,
thing I like
yeah, yeah,
about
yeah.
this is I'm
I,
getting
I
to meet people again.
Yeah, I reach out to my guys every once in a while, but you know what I mean. It's like I wonder when somebody's going to actually reach out to me. You know what I mean? But once in a while, it just we're so I don't know, prideful to reach out and talk. I guess I don't know. It's just funny. It's a unique thing, but when you're in it, you're in it. And when you're out, that's it. That's it. It's nobody cares.
Yeah, what was it like for you when you finally retired? Was you just like shit, that went by way too fast. I didn't stop and look around while it was going on.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. You don't even like, wow, this is it. That my last day in that uniform. You just like, oh right, I can't wait. And then when it happens, you're like, uh-oh, uh-oh, you know. Uh, and again, once you step off and get away from that uniform and get away from that base, there's yeah, next guy's in line, take your spot. There's somebody always there to take your spot. That's the one thing about the military.
Yep, they
They can
will.
fill that bodies. Uh, But like I said, I was fortunate enough to when I got down here to Lackland to train with people that like-minded people. Even though where they were in the Air Force, they might be a little bit different and quirky, but it was those guys like to push themselves. The biggest gripe that I had with some of the officers are made different in the Air Force as opposed to the Army. You know what you're getting in the Army as an officer. You know what I mean? You're going to make a decision, and it's going to be asked from higher for you to make a decision on the ground on what needs to be accomplished. Uh, I don't think they get asked enough from their higher on what needs to be accomplished to achieve their task. And I don't know why that is. It's just I don't they don't do MD&P like we do. They're not given the responsibilities. They are given the responsibilities, but the NCOs step up so much more higher in the Air Force than you would think as
Really?
well, and given so much more leeway. Yeah,
Well, as long as the planes are on time to take us where we need to go.
that's all they care about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you got to remember, I'm only speaking on a very small population of the Air Force guy. I don't know all the other. You know what I mean?
You
If
don't
you
know
want,
everybody? Oh,
no,
come on.
no,
What the fuck? I thought you did, man.
no.
One other thing I've heard, I've said this to other people. They're like, what would you have done if you weren't SF guy or if things had been different? Like, I think I could have been a professional athlete with the way I conducted myself on the teams and shit like that. Like that, you've got the mentality. And I think a
Right.
lot of the guys that were on the teams were professional athletes. They were just Green Berets. What do you think about that?
Yeah. I mean, if I had focused. So growing up as a kid, I was that youth football team that I told you I started at. I was a absolute Tasmanian devil. Uh, I was on a traveling football team, and for the 4 years we were 63 4-1. I'm from Indiana. I played 3 games in Florida, 2 in Tennessee, one in St. Louis, and one in Ohio. And we were good. I mean, really, really, really good football team. Uh, and I was a fullback and an outside linebacker. I get to high school, my freshman year, I weigh a whopping 89 pounds, and I'm in a 5A school with 3,000 kids. I didn't even play football my freshman year because I was so small. My freshman year, I wrestled at 98 and I weighed 89 pounds. But I was varsity because I was light. Uh, my sophomore year, I went out for football, and the coach, the only thing he would let me do is be a kicker. And I can kick the shit out of football too. I mean, I made 63-yard field goals before, uh, but that wasn't. I didn't love kicking. I'd
Mhm.
love hitting motherfuckers. You know what I mean? I mean, like I would just, you know what I mean? I just love that compact of hitting somebody. And from my sophomore to senior year in high school, all I did was kick, and you know, but I was good at that. I mean, I could kick the shit out of the football, but if I had like focused and dialed down into it, because I should have known that I wasn't going to become a 6'5" Tom Brady or some running back, something like that. That wasn't happening, but I always wanted to do that instead of like, okay, you're really good at kicking. Let's just focus on this one thing, and I didn't.
Mhm.
And you know what I mean? And I think I could have done it professionally now. You know what I mean? As you look at it.
Yeah. Well, we were professionals though, right? In the role we got into, like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and as you said earlier, you can't understand it. It's just a different kind of sport with a different kind of outcome, and just none of the pay,
Right. None of the pay.
none of the benefits, none of the financial benefits. And
Yeah.
you're probably going to ruin your family life and your personal life and your mental health in the process.
And you're well, I guess any professional, well, especially football, you're going to ruin the shit out of your body.
Oh
Good
yeah,
God.
those concussions. I'm out because of concussions.
Right.
The last that training accident, I got three in one day, and that was it. That was the symptoms didn't go away for years. So man, I don't think they're all gone all the way now, but memory's back, recall's back, my ability to speak end to end sentences and things like that. So it's just practice. That's why I kind of like I'm doing this. I want to be so good at talking in front of people. I want to be the best at it, better than everybody else, every subject, everything. And if I don't know, then I can still talk my way around things. I just want to get so good at it. Interviewing people, have my own show, and public speaking, to where that's what I do. Is I get in front of people and whether raise money or fundraise or do other things like that, and public just motivate people to go to that next level because they're not going to regret it ever.
Right.
Nobody regretted taking their career or their personal life or anything to the next level ever.
No. No. Mm-mm.
So it's just when they ruin their personal life in the meantime is when they have things like that. But
Hey, well, I would hate to cut you off, but I got to piss like a racehorse.
I
I'm
got
not
five
old.
questions. I'll let you go. How's that sound?
5 more questions.
Yeah, that's it. The five questions everybody gets asked. What is your response to thank you for your service?
Um, Appreciate it. That's it. I
Simple
appreciate
like
it.
that.
Just simple like that, and wish I could do it again. Sometimes even
Wish I could.
that's yeah. I never like what? Yeah.
Yeah, that's another. Some people won't understand. Wish I could do it again. Yeah. What is the one characteristic that sets operators apart from conventional forces?
Their drive,
Just get it done, right?
get it done, and the grit. You got to be gritty. You got to be able to grind, get her done.
What is the one moment of your career that you wish you could go back and relive?
Being in Bosnia when the fucking platoon sergeant told me, "I don't want you coming to my fucking platoon because I know you're going back to SF." I almost fucking, I wanted to grab that motherfucker, and it would be nothing. You know what I mean? The jujitsu skills that I got now compared to then, I would have murdered that guy back then anyway because he probably was never in a fight. I grew up in the South Side of Chicago, so I fought a little bit, but just that moment to be like, yeah, motherfucker, I did it twice, not just once.
I like that. To just say, fuck you. Go back and say, fuck you, I did it.
Yeah.
What is the best piece of advice that you received during your career?
Treat people as you want to be treated.
Yeah, tit for tat, right?
Yep. That's
What were,
what I think lacking a lot of nowadays. People just
oh,
don't treat people the way they want to be treated.
Yeah, especially with the digital age, right? You can talk shit
Right.
about people on
All the time,
keyboard,
man. On the keyboard. Yep.
but
Yep.
as you
Sure
said,
do.
with jujitsu, you can't do that in real life. No.
Yeah. Yeah, I can do that in real life.
Yeah, you can. You can. Yeah,
And I'm really good at it. I don't
I'm
know.
really.
There's a when in like August or something like that. There's going to be a time when I'll post just jujitsu match. I was a team leader in Okinawa. Nobody knew who I. You know what I mean? They don't because you know how team leaders are. They're hardly there. You know what I mean? And I don't know how it lined up, but they had the all Japanese, all Japan Army Combatives tournament that weekend, that week that I'm there. And I went to the guy that's running it. You know, he's a first group guy. And I was like, "Hey man, you mind if I compete?" He's like, "Yeah, no problem. But you gotta try out for the team through us first." I was like, "Okay, where I need to be tomorrow?" Or you know, who do I? He's like, "Oh, tomorrow morning, be up in the room." And I go up into the room, and I was like, he's like, you're gonna go against this guy and we'll see how it goes. Okay. I was like, okay. 20 seconds later, the guy's tapping. I was like, who's next? And they're like, oh, we're good. You're the one for our weight class.
All right, man. One more question for you. Some technical difficulties. What were you afraid of then, and what are you afraid of now?
I was afraid not getting selected for a long time, especially after the first time. And then not being good enough to be on a team would probably be like the scariest thing to me is, you know, you always want to be the best that you possibly can. And I just hope that, you know, during my time, I treated my guys like they wanted to be treated, and, you know, led them in safe as I possibly could. That was probably one thing. The scariest thing that, what was that the last part?
What are you afraid of now?
Oh, I, dying. Dying is probably the scariest thing. You know what I mean? That my kids, uh, that I don't see. If I something happened like today, then they wouldn't know their granddad. If my kids have kids, not being able to be there for my grandkids.
I mean, is that why you moved so much in the fitness realm? Is because, back when you were in, you were afraid of not getting selected. So now you just want to give that benefit to other people that are afraid of not getting selected, so they have that option to come to you and you'll get
More or
them
less
through it.
that, and then that you know it goes back to when you see your dad having a heart attack at 21 and he's only 48 years old. That was awful early. That fitness has been the drive in my whole life. Is that I have this saying that I want to be able to play with my grandkids one day. You know, be able to pick up with them, play tennis with them, do ever, do anything that my kids can do with the kids. I want to be able to do with my grandkids.
Yeah, that's the goal, right? And you don't have to do that much to stay fit. Let
No,
you just got to keep it going and not let it slump off.
right.
So everybody thinks they got to do these crazy workouts and do these things. No, it doesn't take that much to maintain what you have. It's when you have to build it all back up that's the hard part.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Well, Kev, I appreciate you talking to me. You
I appreciate on here, man. It's
you got
been
anything for me?
no, I appreciate it. Just make sure you do the magic clips. You
Yeah.
can
Oh
post
yeah.
this and tag them, and yeah, just tag me, and I'll share it on my stuff, social media stuff.
I appreciate you, sir. Bye, everybody.